the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good afternoon. Welcome to Monday's Drive. We are live across the United Kingdom. Thank you to Dr. David Bull, a man who specialises in emergencies. He's back tomorrow because Ian Collins is no doubt at this moment seeing my wife. Listen, loads to talk about. It's one of those news days where you can start the week and think exciting, exciting. And you know what? There's a young man who started doing drive time on a Thursday. He's being groomed to take over from me one day. Don't worry about the word groomed. The legend that is Harry Cole, already in the building.
Good afternoon.
With the new haircut.
Just smartened up a bit, yeah.
Yes, listen, it's all happening.
I went into the barbers and said, "Can you give me a Jeremy Kyle?"
What did they say?
They laughed.
Yeah, they laughed, obviously, because I'm 60 soon. Not that I'm complaining.
Are you really? Wow.
How old are you?
I will be 39 next month.
And later on we'll be doing a DNA test to find out whether Harry Cole is in fact my illegitimate son, number 475. My son, actually, Henry, was 16 yesterday.
Golly.
And my wife said to me, if you hadn't met me, it would all be over and you could just lie in the garden. And then this voice went, Daddy! And I went, yeah, right, another 16 years. Anyway, happy birthday, H. So listen, just before Harry and I get into it, whatever you want to talk about, I will be ranting about many things, as will Harry. 0344 499 1000. Liverpool's finest, our Jude is back. Literally back and ready to take your calls. Ryan, top producer, who is that exciting in his private life, he said, I bought a hard brush and a spade and I cleared out my garden at the weekend before I sat in the sunshine. Send him a voice note starting with, you're a boring bugger. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. We won't start with Harry and Meghan. We'll start with a man who should win Plank of the Week, Year, Decade and I think Century every week. Sir Keir Starmer.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Mike Graham.
Oh, he's getting into it. Yes, true. Sir Keir Starmer has said in quite forceful terms that illegal immigration to the United Kingdom makes him angry, as he's urged countries from around the world to work together to stop people smuggling gangs in the same way they would terrorists. This is on the same day that a record 6,642 more migrants, the total, and his hapless Home Secretary, Mrs Balls, as I now call her, Yvette Balls.
She loves that.
Yes, I know she does. Said it's to do with the hot weather. Now, forgive me, because I was not a Rwanda fan. I've been a person who has repeatedly said that, for me, it's a disgrace that we can't sort something out, but more than that, I think we're too soft on people coming to this country, which is why they come here. What's their plan? It's all well and good to say it makes me angry, but smashing the gangs was it, after which I've heard zilch.
I mean, so they're hosting this summit today over at Lancaster House, where they've got the Home Secretaries, the Interior Ministers of basically every country.
He loves the summit.
Loves the summit, including places like Vietnam and Albania and Afghanistan, or I'm not sure the Afghans here actually, but you know, places, Iraq, places that you know the majority of these boat crossing men, and they're mostly men, are coming from. So I mean, there is some, you know, not a terrible idea to get these people around the room and say, what the hell are you doing, to stop these people either firstly leaving your country and coming here. But I mean, it's just high on rhetoric again. I interviewed Keir Starmer in October 2023 when he first said we should treat smuggling gangs like terrorists, and it's just, you know, he's gone back to the rhetoric. He's, you know, he's the smash the gangs. You know, he's been saying that for months, and they don't appear to have smashed the gangs. 30,000 arrivals since Labour came to power in July.
30,000.
The graph is going the wrong way. If you look at how it's tracking for this year, it's on course to be a record year. Compared to where we were compared to last year and the previous years, it's going up very, very quickly. Yes, of course, the weather has a factor to play in it. When it's sunny and it's calm, it's easier to cross on the boats. The problem was, I'm old enough to remember, like about 3 months ago, when the Home Office were sort of letting it be known that they think they had smashed the correlation between the weather and crossings. So it meant that actually the crossings were just down generally. The French continue to take the mick, as we've been reporting heavily.
£500 million
heavily
in the
sun over the last few days, the last week or so. You know, they're literally sort of, you know, they're counting people onto the boats, and when the boats get full enough, the police basically wave off the boat and say, "Don't worry, you'll be in England soon."
So here's my thing, and you do this for a living, right? here's my thing, and just read The Sun, because The Sun is the newspaper that tells you the truth about this immigration. The rest can dress it up how they want. But here's my point, right? We are paying £500 million a year to our nearest neighbour who are, by anybody's standards, Harry, taking the mickey, right? We are offering people who come to this country, sometimes known criminals, many times with no paperwork, not with their wives and children, and I always say the same thing, if I was being bombed, I'd take my nearest and dearest with me, but no. And then we immediately say, there's your hotel, there's your mobile phone, there's your doctor, there's your dentist, there's whatever. And I genuinely, and this is not about a political party, this is me, I believe that the British people are beginning to feel like they're having the taken out of them. And I think that is getting stronger and stronger on a daily basis.
I think that is what the Prime Minister was trying to say this morning. He was trying to say, you are angry, I get it, I am like I
Well,
am
give us a plan then, you
Well,
dreary
exactly.
git.
That's where the problem is that, you know, it then stops. Just charging around saying smash the gangs and talking about upstreaming and intelligence sharing and stopping the, you know, breaking the supply chains. It's clearly not working. Because every supply chain they break, they find another one. The boats are getting bigger. The boats are getting more precarious. Yes, obviously there's been an effect on the fact that they're taking the smaller boats out of the cycle, but they're just getting bigger boats.
But you have that whole argument about boats. Somebody said to me once, why don't they just turn some boats around?
Well, this is the
Why don't they send a really strong message?
This is the Australian model. This is the Tony Abbott, former Prime Minister of Australia, had a similar problem. They were bigger boats, so it's actually less risky to actually turn them around. But the point is, you don't have to do it many times before.
Tony Abbott, because
before you break the business.
I did an exclusive with Isabel and him for talkTV about a year ago, and the interesting thing about Abbott was he was pilloried. He was pilloried in the world, and he held a vote, I think, somehow in Australia, and 90% of the population said, yeah, really sorry, health service on its backside, education struggling, we're struggling, that's the way it should be. Albanese, is the new Australian Prime Minister, who is Labour, has maintained the the policy as Tony Abbott.
He has, absolutely.
Which tells you, I think, everything.
Works, and also, that's the other thing. So I know we disagreed on, you know, on Rwanda and the sort of intricacies of it. You know, we're now, the Prime Minister is on the record today, speaking to journalists, saying, yeah, we're going to look at offshoring. So basically, we you know, if you arrive, you'll be processed in a third country. I
just find it disappointing that we can't process we don't have experienced enough people or systems to say, sorry, not right, haven't got the paperwork, go.
Well,
I don't understand that.
The problem is we do, but there's an entire cottage industry that's sprung up around this of dinghy-chasing lawyers who are ideologically opposed to borders, and therefore...
Oh, they're the ones we're paying for,
using essentially lawfare to basically help these people and delay and frustrate the system as much as possible. They're deliberately slowing the system down because they want to push it to the point of collapse. They'll deny that.Ey'll say no, we're just making sure everyone has a voice. But no, giving someone a voice and legal advice isn't coaching them through meetings to say things like I'm gay or I have mental health or I've got an alcoholic or my children like chicken nuggets. You know,
it's disgraceful, man.
There is an entire industry of this stuff.
But why Sir Keir Starmer in this instance, Rishi Sunak, whoever, politicians, why can't they, like you, like me, go, you are taking it out of us and we are allowing that to happen. This is no more than, you're right, it's a cottage industry. They're being paid £800 a day to defend people via the ECHR.
They're caught in these guardrails of the UN Refugee Convention written after the Second World War, the ECHR charter written in the late 1940s. These outdated rule books that are essentially guiding us. That, you know, there is now a sort of overwhelming case, I believe, to just say enough.
Yeah.
You know, do what the other European countries do and just ignore some of this stuff.
Do you have a brother called Steve?
I don't have a brother called Steve.
Do you have a good friend called Steve?
No, he's texted in.
Cheers, a good show as usual, but I have to say, Harry, on Thursdays is brilliant. You are now officially, at 60 years of age, a 3-day fluffer for the old fella. Right,
thank you, Steve in Cambridge.
Steve in Cambridge, you need therapy. So I'm a 3-day fluffer for you, Cole. The big story, and you know, sometimes because of the other stuff I do, sometimes on a Thursday or Friday when a big story feels, I'm like, oh my God, Harry and Meghan.
The latest.
I mean, this centre Bali boss, whose name escapes me for a second.
Dr. Sophie Chanduka.
You would have to say a lady of quite brilliant credentials who was handpicked to do this. I didn't know, she did the interview with Trevor Phillips, didn't she? I didn't know they go back a long way. Incendiary would be an understatement. I actually watched it. But what I said to David, and I'll repeat to you. For me, this sums up the hypocrisy of those two. I always remember saying, you know, look, you disagree with the royal family, I happen to be a massive royalist, that's fine. Disappear, go and bring up your kids in America. I salute you for walking out of that, away from the bubble. But when you land, you sign this $100 million deal to slag off the very thing you don't want to be part of, you want to keep your titles, all of that. But the one thing that the racism, the misogyny, the sexism, the immorality of the royal family, well, there you bloody well go. Right? You know, this, let's be honest, this is the black woman running a charity in Africa in Harry's name, in his mother's memory. She has nothing to achieve by saying what she's achieved. What she's saying about him.
Said it incredibly forthrightly and incredibly articulately as well, and incredibly calmly. You know, obviously there's been a fallout, but you know, if this stuff wasn't true, then you'd have Harry and Meghan coming out and saying it. And it's amazing, isn't it? So remember about
they've said
about a year ago, they've said we will stop using royal sources or sources close to Harry and sources close to Meghan because we don't believe that's right and it's, you know, it's immoral, la la la. Because often Buckingham Palace or the royals won't want to specifically comment on a story, but so they'll do sources. And they're saying we're not doing that. We'll only ever give on the record quotes from a spokesman for Harry and Meghan. And lo and behold, what do we get in this story? A source close to the Sussex saying it's not true. And well, if it's not true, go on the record and say that. Or will you be proven to be lying?
I wish you'd met the old man. As you know, he worked for the Queen Mother for 41 years. He said to me a couple of years before it died, he said to me, let me tell you, he'll be back in England with his ginger tail between his legs when she's had her fill, and she will absolutely use everything to make... I believe this boy is in severe... I mean, I talk about barking up the wrong tree.
Well,
they're horrible. I don't care what anybody says.
I just wonder how many bridges he's burnt here. And also, look, his father is unwell. He's not, you know, he is an older man, and you just wonder, you know, in a couple of decades' time, you know, whether this would all be worth it.
I'll tell you something I do know. I happen to believe his dad isn't well. I agree with you. I'm not speculating. I'm being completely honest about that. I know this for a fact. His brother, right, will never forgive him.
No.
Never. And if Charles passes away in the next 5, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, there's no way back but a very miserable existence. But the thing for me is, Harry, right, this is classic. You want to go from being a royal to a celebrity, and then you want to moan and bitch about the response and the criticism you get. That is what comes with it. That is exactly with what... And her, honestly, mate, just...
Are you saying you won't be making her lemon-crusted Meghan's tart dessert?
Now, you haven't got any kids. I've got more than Boris Johnson. Let me tell you, with my hand on my heart, there has never been a bloody moment in my house where at 7:10 any morning, it's so nice to just make a plate of fruit and use some cottage cheese as clouds, you stupid, ridiculous woman. There's toast being flung past my nose. There's Marmite being sprayed across the walls. This is ludicrous rubbish. And honestly, you will get the truth here in the current bun. Honestly, I can't have them. And I don't understand how anybody could ever advise them. I can't imagine that they've ever listened to anybody.
I think that's the point that this woman was making, Dr. Sophie Chiduka was saying. She's saying that they don't listen to advice and they expect you to basically go out there and do their PR for them.
Yeah.
But it's not a two-way street. It's you know, and history, sort of St James's Park and the gates of Buckingham Palace are littered with people who tried to go and work for them for a long time and didn't. And so, lo and behold, so is Netflix and all these other places they've gone to work. It's remarkable how they all fall out with everyone.
Proud to tell you, Oliver was the 5th person to put flowers against the gate at Windsor. You know, we lived on the Long Walk, and we were there when the 4 of them came down, and I'm telling you categorically with my own eyes, 100 yards behind them, behind some trees coming down from the castle, were the Netflix crew. Right, there is fact nailed on. A few other quick stories, stuff to make your... by the way, don't forget, Jodie is here, 0344 499 1000. Harry and Meghan, Starmer, immigration answers, don't be so bleeding ridiculous. This is bound to send me through the roof. Ethnic minority criminal suspects are being given priority by judges considering bail under a new 2-tier justice guidelines drawn up by the Ministry of Justice. We go back to that thing I just said to you about immigration and people coming to this country. We are now looking at real two-tier justice. So if you are from a particular area, region, religion, you're going to be treated differently. Surely, again, unless I'm missing the point, you break the law, you break the bleeding law.
This is sort of the fallout also from the Sentencing Council, which will allow ethnic minorities and transgender people, and basically anyone who's not a white man, be afforded a slightly more sympathetic hearing in pre-sentencing.
Why?
Well, to be fair. If you look at sentencing data, there is a disproportionate amount of black men, especially, who are given harsher sentences for similar crimes to white people. That's
wrong.
That is wrong. That is, of course, wrong.
Absolutely.
But there is a way that you can fix that. There is
not to go the other way.
This is the problem. Is that this is using a sledgehammer to crack a walnut.
Yeah.
And the problem is, and Starmer knows how toxic that two-tier care moniker is. It's cut through. It's become sort of part of modern parlance. It is people who aren't following politics and who aren't interested in politics, and people who aren't listening to talk radio all day. People are using it
they are.
You know what? It's crept onto BBC comedy, so therefore it really has.
Listen, two-tier farmer armour, granny armour, all that. You're right. You're absolutely right.
He knows how toxic that is for him. So on the sentencing, they're going to say, look, and this is another classic. They've said we've known about this thing for 3 weeks now, and we knew it was coming in on the 2nd of April, 1st of April, 2nd of April, whenever it is. That these new sentencing guidelines that will basically be a blanket sort of blanket sympathy for everyone who's not a white man, and so. We knew that was coming in, and so they said, well, they would argue with the Sentencing Council, urging them not to do this and to change the guidance. Sentencing Council, anonymous quango of quite high and mighty judges told them to do one.
I love the way the finger came up halfway there and then stopped.
They got onto their high horses.
Yeah.
So finally now the Justice Secretary, we're going to change the law. We're going to change the law. And so yesterday we were talking to them. They were saying we're going to announce we're going to change the law. We're going to change the law this week. They're going to publish the bill this week. It's going to take months to get it through Parliament. When we were having an argument back and forth at Lobby this morning, when we talked to Number 10 journalists and when we sort of have a bit of an interaction, and we were saying, will it be done by Easter? Will it be done by the summer break? Will it be done this year? And soon. It'll be done
Kicked down.
Soon.
Unbelievable. 2 other stories. You're a legend. We love having you on. Southport riots fueled by Guardian editors, said Lord Sewell. What do we make of that this weekend? It's an extraordinary headline.
I saw this sort of rumbling yesterday, and I just thought...
The editors of The Guardian were partly to blame for creating the conditions that caused the Southport riots last year. A peer has claimed Lord Sewell of Sanderstead, who was appointed by Boris Johnson to chair the Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities in 2020, told a debate about immigration at the Oxford Literary Festival yesterday that the Southport riots came out of a combination of 2 people, Guardian editors and criminal arsonist.
I mean, it's punchy. Tony Steele is not he's not a fringe figure. He is a respected man, and if he's making the case for it, I wouldn't lay the blame entirely at just the Guardian, but I think the police have a lot to. The police, actually not the frontline cops, and I stress that point, not the cops who were having bricks thrown at them, not the cops that were picking up literally, bodies the day before, but the senior police and the
career ones,
the senior coppers and the CPS who colluded to basically keep the public in the dark. That's where the blame lies.
Finally, and I am. Do you go to B&Q?
I have been to B&Q.
Have you? I can't really... having seen you at Cheltenham, I don't consider you a man of DIY. My dad used to call an electrician to change a light bulb, and I'm not actually joking. B&Q staff have been told the phrases blind drunk and deaf to our pleas are offensive to disabled people. A 30-page inclusive language guidebook issued by the DIY chain warns against using these phrases or others that associate impairments with negative things. The guidance is the latest example of complete madness, so you can't say deaf. What was it? Blind drunk.
Blind. I mean, well.
Deaf as a
deaf as a doorknob.
Deaf as a doorknob.
You're not allowed to say
you've
that.
upset people without a doorknob now. What do you mean that?
The best one I've heard of this was it was literally spies. It was GCHQ, our big listening station up in Cheltenham.
Yes.
It is some of the brightest minds. It was born out of Bletchley Park.
Yes.
Like the smartest, most clever people working 24 hours a day trying to keep us safe, and they're all computer scientists. And in computing, you have something called a blacklist and a whitelist in computer coding. it always has been called the blacklist and the whitelist. Well, that's what they said. They're trying to ban the very people that are trying to stay up all night, keep us safe, writing ridiculous computer codes to spy on the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians and North Koreans. And there's the all-staff memo comes around and says, sorry guys, can you take time out of protecting the nation to educate yourselves on not using words like whitelist and blacklist because it implies good versus
So
evil.
blackjack, you can't go. I mean, honestly, the whole
blackjack.
everything.
A blackjack's still a penny. I bet they're not.
You can't say that. The sweets. Oh my God, it's all gone wrong. Don't start that. So you're doing Thursday drive time.
No, I'm not doing Thursday drive
You're
time
not?
this week. No, because you're doing Thursday drive
I'm
time.
doing Thursday drive time.
Because you're not doing Tuesday because you've got a special day tomorrow.
I have got a special day tomorrow.
You're on day release.
I'm day release tomorrow. ITV 9 o'clock. It's me back on ITV after many.
Are you doing a little warm-up tour? Are you doing a little fluffer tour for it?
No, I'm doing an hour with Kate Garraway tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. So that'll be great. Thanks for that. Will you be watching?
Only to see.
Only because he's seen the rushes and he went, "Why were you wearing a turquoise suit?" It wasn't. I think that was.
I will tune in to make sure it was indeed blue rather than a sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a showbiz.
So the colour of the drive background.
Ooh, you might be right. I think the lights killed me. The legend that is Harry Cole, thank you very much indeed.
See you later.
All the latest you want, immigration, Harry and Meghan in the sun, each and every day by at 4:23. You want to be on drive time between now and 7. Oh, double. No, it isn't. What is it? Oh, actually, let's get Harry to do the number. It's his favourite bit. Go.
03. 0344 499 1000. There we go.
Get in there. Back in 3.
This is a bunch of MPs, 20 of them in total, who've signed a letter to Keir Starmer telling him that there really needs to be an airport in Mirpur in Kashmir, Pakistan-ruled Kashmir. So Tariq Ali, the Birmingham MP who signed this letter, there is currently a bin strike in Birmingham. There are rats as big as cats roaming around the streets. If you look at the other MPs who've signed it, like Sara Sultana, for example, the Coventry MP, these are people who openly oppose the third runway at Heathrow Airport. Right. The hypocrisy is off the scale.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
4:25, Monday afternoon. We're live across the UK. This is JK. Thanks for your text, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Jez, so Starmer is angry about the illegal migrants. He should stop being a weak coward, grow a pair of balls and be forceful. Show the world he means business. Be a star, be a man, you drip. Oh, there you go. Well done, Adrian. Jill Knight's in Hertfordshire. Revoke French fishing licences and the fishermen will do the rest. How long have we been saying that for? Couldn't agree more. Margaret! Nobody saw that. Yvette Clueless Cooper, it's not the weather. We need to stop the freebies, stop the boats and stop giving our money to France. What for nothing? Honestly, I don't understand. I'm with you, Margaret. I don't understand why people can't go. So we're giving them 500 million quid and we're giving these people, because we so care, a 4-star hotel. And yet old people can't see a doctor, but they can. And they've got no paperwork. That's not right. That doesn't mean we're inhumane if we say no. And we're paying taxes that pay for left-wing lawyers who don't like borders, is it their business, to basically apply to use laws that are antiquated to screw what we want to do. It's madness. Ryan, you need a good rake. No politician has the guts to stop migration. I mean, how do those two sentences go together? Ryan, you need a good rake. This is because Ryan has become the Percy thrower of his local community. He's now a gardener. No politician has the guts to stop migration. All they do is kick it down the road until it's somebody else's problem. Starmer is a bag of wind. Graham from Bushy. The only way to deal with the illegal migrants is to take them to Hertfordshire where they land and wait for them to post a nasty social media message, and the local police will then arrest them and bang them up. That's very true. Kevin, is he listening? Jez, Labour have no intention of smashing any gangs or slowing immigration or stopping the boats. We will get 4 years of excuses. Couldn't agree more. Kenny, Edinburgh. Hi, Jez. Isn't Starmer the fireman an arsonist when it comes to migration? He wants to put the fire out but throws petrol on at the same time. I really do wish he'd stop talking rubbish and taking the mickey out of us. Zoe's in Lancashire. Afternoon, Jez. Labour can say whatever they want about smashing gangs, cutting down on visas, but in the end, nobody will go. Labour will continue to lie and eventually we'll all know the truth when the economy will completely flatline due to an increased population overload. Louise, good afternoon. I reckon Prince William hit the jackpot when he married Catherine and Harry took the booby prize. But it's another Margaret. Margaret, she's in Birmingham. Tuesday, ITV 9 o'clock. Have my plain chocolate digestives ready. Looking forward to your life story. Thank you, Margaret in Birmingham. I'm just going to give you a little bit of... I fell over. That's all I'm saying. Right, a very good afternoon to a legend. A man who moves the dial, and that's just according to his wife. Peter Blexley, former Met Police detective. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Card. How are you?
You're looking very smart there and sitting in front of your Queen's Park Rangers shirt after they were battered on Saturday, weren't they?
As per usual, moving swiftly on.
Good lad. Pete, I'm really going to just try and be as calm as possible. You were a policeman who did it in many people's minds, including mine, the right way. You rage against the softness amongst the police nowadays, and certainly the higher up and how they've been watered down by their desire to simply climb the greasy pole. Could you explain to me what your average copper, male or female, would make of facts that are going to, well, laws that are going to become facts very soon, where ethnic minority criminal suspects are to be given priority by judges considering giving out bail under new two-tier justice guidelines this government's going to implement? So it basically says that if you're from an ethnic minority or a different religious group, or you're a transgender, whatever, you're going to be let off. Can you please explain to me how that resonates with policemen and women who are trying to catch criminals?
Well, nearly 200 years ago, when Sir Robert Peel founded the Metropolitan Police, that was 1829, by the way, he laid down the 9 principles of policing. And they're all extremely important, and I'd urge anybody to go online and have a read of them. You'll probably be shaking your head as you do, thinking, why are the police not abiding by these in 2025? But one of them was that the police are the public and the public are the police. What that essentially means is the police aren't a special breed of people. They've been drawn from the public to do a job of protecting the public. So as people, let alone police officers, I'm sure they are going to be shaking their heads in disbelief when their training, their culture will teach them to treat everybody equally. They will arrest people, charge them, they'll go to court, only for them to be treated unequally. And I think that will be as baffling to the men and women on the policing front line as I'm sure it is to you, me, and everybody listening or watching.
And so, surely it says to the criminal mind, unless I'm missing the point, PB, right? Let's say you're an ethnic minority criminal, right? You're going to know. It's like these bloody immigrants. They're playing the system. They're playing the game in this guise. I mean, look, Harry Cole made a point. So Harry Cole said, and this is a fact, that there were in the past, and I put this to you because it's relevant. He said it's a known fact that there were judgments made about black men committing crime that were more severe than white men. But what he did jump in and say was, it's gone so far the other way now that we're paralysing our police force.
Yes, indeed. The pendulum has swung far too far in the opposite direction. And we only have to look at so many other recent stories, the nonsense coming out of the London Museum about staff having to challenge their embedded whiteness. If you look at how poorly white working class boys are doing at school, when you add something like this into the mix, whereas if a white working class boy were foolish enough to do something against the law and get arrested and go in court, he might look alongside him to see a person of colour and to think they're going to be treated more lenient than I am. What actually is happening to the white indigenous people of the UK who were born in this country, raised in this country, contribute to the country, and whose forefathers go back generations and generations, and yet all of a sudden we're all getting persecuted?
To me, it's so abhorrent, and of course, the left wing will jump on this and say you're being racist. No, I'm not. I do not care the colour of your skin. I believe fervently in, if you commit a crime and the police discover that and press charges, I don't care whether you're black, white, yellow, a woman, a man. I don't care about your sexuality, your religious beliefs. You should surely face the same and equal punishment across the band. I mean, I don't even understand how anybody thinks they can get away with this trollop, but we're back there again, and apparently this is the world we're living in. And you just said it. How are people who have been here all their lives going to feel? I say this about immigration every day, Pete. We seem to be second, third and fourth-rate citizens all of a sudden.
Well, talking of immigration, I woke up this morning having my early cup of coffee, sitting outside, seeing the blue sky rising and thinking, wow, isn't this lovely? And then I think, oh no, there'll be loads more boats today. Oh
yeah, well that's Yvette Cooper's reason. She says that the reason that 6,642 migrants have crossed the Channel in 119 boats so far this year is good weather. And the fact that nearly 30,000, which is far greater than ever in the past, have crossed the Channel since Labour took power is because of the weather. Again, today our Prime Minister says, it makes me very angry, but he's got absolutely no plan at all to change it. So listen, I believe the British people, I meet people the whole time, I'm sure you do. I meet people who go, I feel like a second-class citizen. I went to a cobbler's this morning, right, to take a pair of shoes for Henry, right? A couple of guys used to anyway, he said, Wask, I listen to talk, what is going on with this world? You can't say anything anymore. I think this is going everywhere, Pete. I think so many people of all age ranges are hacked off to the back teeth of how we seem to put to the back of the queue anybody who's who's white, indigenous, whatever you say, and anybody who just wants, I don't know, we seem to be destroying ourselves with ideology.
Well, I think so many of the public services, and I include the police in this, the NHS, social services, many other aspects of the civil service are all in the grip of this intolerant, left-wing, woke, sort of liberal kind of agenda. And they're also humorless and they're also intolerant. They really are. And yet they preach about tolerance and diversity and equality and inclusion. And yet should you mention just one word against their fervour, their fanaticism, then they want to come down on you like a ton of bricks. They want to cancel you. They want to accuse you of you being things that you quite simply are not. And they want to see you sidelined. They are intolerant, unpleasant, and yet they've got a grip on so much of the public services of this country.
Couldn't agree more. 0344 499 1000. You'll love this. Ex-policeman that you were. Tell me how we deal with this. Pro-Palestinian protesters are planning, and they've made this well known, to fill the Just Stop Oil void, follow their tactics and bring London to a standstill. And we won't drag them off the streets. We're not being allowed to drive past them or push them out the way, even if we're trying to get to hospital, because that's all made up. These people have a right. Why are we not dragging these people off the streets? Don't get it.
Well, you might be somewhat surprised about what I've got to say now, because last week, of course, Just Stop Oil announced that they are no longer going to take part in disruptive protests. They're not going to throw any soup and glue themselves to the road
Because
anymore.
nobody cares about them.
Well, the reason they're not going to do that anymore, of course, is because finally the judiciary, and I praise the judges that sent them to jail for lengthy periods of time, actually did their job, actually did what the public wanted them to do. And so we had an element of the judges dispensing justice from the bottom up, doing the will of the people. And of course, those lentil-munching, lefty, lunatic, guardian idiots, OK, they can do the crime, but they can't do the time. And on a cheerful note, 9 of them are going to be sentenced on the 16th of May at Isleworth Crown Court.
Good.
For conspiracy to disrupt Heathrow Airport. They had wire cutters, they had glue, and the allegations were they were going to cut their way into Heathrow Airport and glue themselves to the runway. Very, very dangerous, very, very disruptive. I'm going to be putting a bottle of something in the fridge so it's nice and chilled for when I hear the judges hand down their jail term.
So actually, if these pro-Palestinian protesters do the same, we might get to jail some of them as well.
Exactly. If the judges remain consistent and dispense the will of the people.
Hold on, though. We're not going to, though. Now, you've got to think about this. Hold on. Two-tier justice nightmare. Ethnic minority criminal suspects are given priority by judges considering bail because of where they come from. So pro-Palestinian, if they're Palestinian, they're going to be let off, aren't they? Think about it.
Yes, but of course, we've seen so many of these Gardanistas, lentil-munching fools with their Arabic dress thrown round their shoulders going on these pro-Palestine protests. So actually, when you find your sort of Lucille and Hugo and all these kind of people who don't have proper jobs, who have gone to university, become even more brainwashed and Marxist than they were.
But they're not actually, hold on, they don't protest during the holidays because they're away with mummy and daddy in Mallorca in their villa.
Exactly, but you see, when they start getting 4 and 5 years in prison, which, OK, they won't do the whole term, but they'll do a couple of Christmases inside. They really, really don't like it because they very much miss out, not on their turkey, but their nut roast. And they don't actually like going to jail. So let's hope the judiciary, some of whom I have an enormous amount of respect for, but they have their hands tied by the Sentencing Council and the like, let's hope they dispense justice like they did eventually to Just Stop Oil, and then we can all laugh at our televisions when we see them all getting sent to prison.
Just a quick question then, PB. Not a fan of lentils then, or nut roast, no?
Well, I have been known to have a chicken tikka dansak before now, which does include lentils, but if anybody asked me what it was, I'd say it was a madras.
Good man. There's a burner. Love having you on. Peter Blexley, former Met Police. What a legend he is, PB. Are we going to go to the ad break? Listen, if you want to be on 0344 499 1000, our Jodie's taking the call. She can get a WhatsApp message via Lanky Ryan the Gardener, 0344 499 1000. We'll get an ad break with voice note from Jordan on legal migration. Go.
An idea that I've had for ages about cracking down on these illegal workers and so-called slave labour. Put together a team of immigration officers and police and target businesses. Shut the business down until all the people there can prove that they're working here legally. Go in, shut the business down, find out if the people there are working there legally. If not, get them gone.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Minutes to 5 o'clock. We're live across the UK. This is Talk Drive, the home of free speech and common sense, and the home of Mike Graham's Morning Glory. Back tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. No other way to wake up, my dears. Jane Osborne, hello. Or is it Auborn? It's Auborn. Where's the S gone? I'm sick to death of these excuses of the illegals. Quite simply send them back to France. The government treat the British people as if we are stupid. It's the bloody government. It's getting ridiculous. Afternoon, Brad. Starmer was once again virtue signalling over the terrible conditions the migrants have in France. It's his fault. If they weren't given so much when they get here, they wouldn't camp. Absolutely. Nobody will tell me. Nobody will ever be able to convince me that it isn't because we're so soft. Right. The big news story that, of course, exploded on Thursday and goes nowhere. Oh, I love it. Prince Harry, accused of harassment and bullying at scale by the Centre Bali boss. The Centre Bali, of course, was this charity set up with the Prince of Lesotho. It was about people, kids who were suffering. It was in memory of his mother. It was his big thing along with the Invictus Games. And this couple, this odious couple who have spent their lives, well, the last few years, telling all of us that the royal family is misogynistic and full of bullying and they're all racist. Now you've both been accused of it. Good afternoon, Royal Editor Robert Jobson. I've got a big grin on my chops.
Well, what goes around comes around, doesn't it, really, Jeremy? I mean, it's... I must admit, when I read it initially, I thought that he was probably being, in a way, picked on. You know, he made a mistake. But if you actually listen to what this chief of the charity is saying, you know, she's just trying to run it as it should be run, and he's running it, you know, as if it's his plaything. I'd really quite like to know, you know, when he's raised this £1 million or whatever it is, raised it playing polo, how many flights he's taken with the charity. I think there needs to be a bit of an audit of this charity, particularly as a lot of the money that went into this money was the money from Diana originally. You know, Diana had the Diana Fund, and then that went into the William and Harry Foundation. And when that split, all that money went into Centre Bali. Well, it'd be rather ironic and wrong, wouldn't it, if a lot of money now goes in some big legal case, which it does sound like it's going that way.
You strip it down, though, right? And I'm with you. I read it and I thought, hold on, this is just somebody. But Harry Cole made a great point. Completely no comment, nothing official, sources close to, although they railed against that. That's what's wrong with the media, sources close to. I would say, I would go further and say that this shines a light on both of them as exactly everything that everybody has suspected they are. And I think it's extraordinary, mate, because they have they've lectured their own family, they've lectured the media, they've lectured every person in the world about how important it is to be caring and sharing. And isn't it ironic in that instance when they both can now be accused of the very things, Robert Jobson, that they seem to point the finger at everybody, from the late Queen to his father to the press to anybody you want to know. Have a look in the bloody mirror is what I'd say.
Misogynoir, what was that? Misogynoir? I'd never heard of it before, but it's, you know, it's misogynistic behaviour towards a woman of colour, a black lady. Which, you know, at the end of the day, this is the guy when he was at Sandhurst made racist remarks. This is the guy that when he was a little kid was making racist remarks to the bus conductor wearing a Nazi uniform, yet tells me and everybody else I know that, you know, who didn't have such a privileged upbringing as him, that we're all unconscious bias we all have, which is nonsense. You know, that's maybe him and his pals, but that's not. And clearly he's got an issue, according to this head of the charity. I think what's gone on, you know, he laid it all on with a trowel, didn't it, over the opera. He said that everyone in the royal family was racist. Well, he's had it come back at him in spades, and that's the way it goes sometimes if you are living a slightly hypocritical life, that I think he clearly is.
I said it before, I said it earlier in the show. The old man, before he passed, said to me, he'll be back in England with his ginger tail between his legs in a number of years, and this woman will play the royal family for everything she can. But I'll tell you what I believe now. I believe he will struggle to come back to this country. I want to speculate. It's not for me. We were at the Royal Albert Hall at a Teenage Cancer Trust gig on Thursday when we heard about the King. You might disagree with me. I think the King's iller than they're letting on. But let's just be perfectly honest. If and when the King passes and William becomes King, there will be no way back. You would agree with this?
I don't think there is now.
I mean, think William is raging with him. Raging.
Well,
Robert.
the bullying claims, the racism claims, the attack upon his wife when she was just before she was ill.
Yeah.
All of these things are pretty outrageous. But the very fact that he abandoned ship when he needed him on deck, that's the thing that really is shocking, and particularly for the King, who's I was at a reception the other day. 400 journalists were ill at the palace for some big reception. Before that was a big army reception. 500-600 people from the army. He's putting in his hours, the King, and it's difficult. When he's got chemotherapy and he's putting in those hours and years. I think that years ago there would have been a big rally of people defending Harry and all of this. The silence is deafening, isn't it?
The silence is deafening from the press, from the people, and from them. I believe they've been found out, and I believe, genuinely, hand on heart, there is no way back. And I'm afraid, for all the... I mean, I still read people going, oh, they're given such a... I've heard nothing, by the way, from those wailing lefties who go, oh, it's so unfair. You're really unfair to the spare. Isn't it interesting? And I'm just being straight for anybody who has a go at me. This was a woman of colour accusing him of bullying and harassment and misogyny. A woman of colour, after everything they said.
I know, yeah.
Unbelievable.
She was clearly annoyed with the way that she's been treated, and I'm sure that she's going to have... She's she's not only a woman of colour, she's a very, very bright person, a doctor. She's a solicitor, a top lawyer, and I'm sure that would have kept a lot of notes on all of these things she's made accusations about.
I read it like you, and I thought, oh, this is just bitterness. This is a very successful, very intelligent, very, very high-end professional woman, and she's a woman of colour who's fought to get to the top. And for her to turn round and say that, I think it's incendiary, and that, for me, there's no way back for them ever, Robert. No way back.
Yeah, I think you're right. And also, not only would William not want him back, I don't think he would at all. I mean, there've been no real communication. But even now, at this moment in time, when the King is really struggling, as a dad, you'd think he'd want him here. I just think he knows every time that Harry comes over or even appears on the scene, it's another headache when he doesn't need one.
Certainly not the way he is. Robert, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. The Royal Editor, Robert Jobson, on Talk Drive 10 to 5. Live across the UK. I've got a happy team today. Our Jodie's on the phones. Amy's smiling. Ryan's dreaming about his garden. Jana is pushing the buttons. The woman has the voice of an angel and will be the next biggest thing to come out of this station, obviously after Harry Cole. Sorry, Pete, that's the way it is. 10 to 5.
somehow a police constable is telling elected officials, including an MP, not to do their democratic job of deciding which casework they take on and how they do things. It is a very, and obviously I was aware of this before from the emails, but as this has emerged, it's an extraordinary extra layer to it, because you can't help but wonder why were Hertfordshire constabularies so sort of, I suppose, fixated with the particular issue.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Glad the ad break's over. We won't be talking about Orion's gardening. 7 minutes to 5 o'clock. Well, and his wife's been sending him pictures of the pussy. It's all going on. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We've got a voice note. Tony, on migration, go.
The thing that really strikes me that's really ironic this day and age, we've had wall-to-wall messages over the past 7 or 8 years. Yeah, be kind. It's okay not to be okay. All these kind of woolly messages, yet we've probably got the most intolerant, disrespectful generation of people that we've ever had in this country. And I don't just mean the younger ones, I mean, you know, probably right across the board, the sort of woke lefty brigade. If something doesn't go their way, then all of a sudden they're not being kind.
Completely agree with you, Ian. What do you make of it? Voice notes on WhatsApp, 0344 499 1000 to the phone lines. We'll go to London. Ian, you're on Talk Drive. Just a couple of minutes. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Very well, Jez. Very well. Hope you had a great weekend. The weather was lovely.
Well, I did my best between babysitting and getting drunk. I mean, not at the same time, but that's another story. Crack on.
Okay. I've got to say that, you know that toolmaker's son in number 10? He has got to be the
yes.
toolmaker's son.
Yeah, Sadriri Stami, yes.
Yeah. He has got to be really an ex-double glazing salesman, right?
Hello.
Because they are doing the perfect scam. Originally, how he made his money, and Sadiq Khan and Mahmood and all this, was to help with migrants getting into the country and doing the laws there. Now he's going to do it the other way, with going around saying to turn them into prosecutors to earn money. Look, now we're going to sort of get you caught and we're going to prosecute you. So he's making more money for the law, because it just seems to be he did nothing. He got all the laws to get them into the country, and now he's going to pretend to make the laws to get them out the country. But he does nothing.
I mean, listen, there is no doubt that our Prime Minister is a left-wing human rights lawyer who believes that the global view is more important than the British UK view. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't believe he's proud of being British. I think he and his lefty mates are more interested to sucking up to Brussels and green climate agendas in Baku and all this rubbish. And I think it's beginning to really dawn on the British people that we're defending left-wing lawyers and paying for them to find glitches in the law. And whilst you're right, he's now it's rhetoric. I don't like gangs. Now I'm going to prosecute them. No, you're not. You're just saying it's a soundbite, man. There's been no plan. All you've said is I'm going to smash the gangs. You've done bugger all in 9-10 months. And the numbers increase, and now we've got hapless Mrs. Balls saying, and I'm allowed to call her that, she is essentially Yvette Balls. What a surname that is. What a load of old... Anyway, it's the weather. Well, no, I'm not sticking up for the Tories. They were a joke. Higher numbers now than ever under the Tories. I think it's a smokescreen in. I don't think they have an answer. And I think he will forever defend, you're right, is left-wing trendy lawyers. Thank you for your call. Let's go to Birmingham. Oh, dear. Simon, you're on Talk Drive. You're having a nightmare. There's no bin collections. There's rubbish everywhere. There'll be rats the size of Keir Starmer's head running the streets of Birmingham. It's all going wrong.
What? Comes the stage, I've had to put the black band down to the local team.
Right, hold on. This is awful. Honestly, you look like you sound like you're phoning from a bin. Are you all right?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Have you got a bad throat, or is your line crap?
No, I've got bad throat, actually. I've got what they call it, COPD, asbestosis.
Okay. I'm just struggling with it. I want to get you on. I really appreciate your call, though. Genuinely, Si. Let's try you again in a minute. Do not fret. That sometimes happens technically. Not a problem. So listen, what a busy first hour. I don't know what gets you goat today, what makes you feel passionately about in terms of what's happening. But we've talked about immigration with Sir Starmer. I mean, they came to power, didn't they? Say it's all about stopping the boats and stopping the gangs. No, actually, they didn't say stopping the boats. They said stopping the gangs, and seemingly nothing has happened at all. A record 6,642 migrants have crossed the Channel since January started. It's only March. That's 30,000 in total since the Labour Party came to power, 9 months ago. And as I said, and I said it just then, I'll say it again, I'm not advocating or sticking up for the Tories. They were a shambles, but the truth of the matter is this. There doesn't seem to be a plan. There doesn't seem to be anything that you listen to our government and think, yes, you can give me a soundbite, but try and explain to your average man or woman, man and woman, see, I said it, in the United Kingdom, the reality of come to our country, see a doctor, get a dentist, get a mobile phone, we'll give you a handout, and while we're doing that, we're going to freeze pensioners, screw our farmers, which for me is one of the biggest disgraces. We're going to upset every veteran who's given anything, and we're going to make everybody feel like a third-class citizen. It isn't right. What do you make of that? Maybe Harry and Meghan. How ironic that the two people who accused the royal family, and I'm a fervent royal, of what? Misogynistic behaviour, racism, bullying, horrible, antiquated, horrible family. We're going to move to California. Have now been accused of the same by almost everybody. Harry accused of harassment and bullying at scale by the Centre Bali boss, a woman of colour who sets up a charity, and not a word from those whinging wets who have been defending them. Whatever you want to talk about, we are here until 7 o'clock. It's Talk, of course, the home of free speech and common sense. The number, as ever, 0344 499 1000. You can get through to Jody. You can send a text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. But my friends, the news at 5 is next.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
My friends, welcome back in the afternoon sunshine. It's a couple of minutes after 5 and we are live across the UK on Talk. It is the home of free speech and common sense. It's your chance. It's your arena to come forward, my dears, and tell me what's annoying you, pleasing you, making you joyous as I munch on a chocolate given to me by Jana, whose voice will launch a million people's dreams in the future. Trust me, I'm going to sign her up. Right, listen, we are here until 7. Whatever you want to talk about, 0344 499 1000. That is our telephone number. You can ring normally or you can try a WhatsApp and send a message, a voice note to Ryan. Your texts are always welcome. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Today is dominated by Harry and Meghan. It's dominated by how ethnic minorities in the next couple of days, laws will be passed to say that if you are an ethnic minority and you commit a crime, there's more chance you'll get bail because it's really important we treat you well. If you have been to B&Q, by the way, in the last 24 hours or last week, give me a call because they've been told that phrases like blind, drunk and deaf to our pleas are offensive to disabled people. But perhaps the most exciting thing of today is how our esteemed leader, a man who loves a quango, loves a committee, has gathered together 40 countries, heads of state and prime ministers and people to talk about smashing the gangs, because I've decided after 9 months that illegal immigration to the United Kingdom makes me very, very angry. You boring idiot. Benedict Spence, not a boring idiot. You see what happened there? Conservative commentator with a new haircut and a spring in his step and his hat at a rather jaunty angle. A very good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm well. It's spring. Everything is new. Newfound optimism. Oh, no. It's Britain under Starmer. There's no optimism.
No, there's no optimism. We tried for 30 seconds, but it's as crap as it was yesterday, yes. We've talked loads about this, and you know, I'm going to be munching on a chocolate so you can earn your money, but he's come out now and said it makes me angry, and yet he's absolutely known, as one of our techs said, as a human rights left-wing lawyer who's done everything he can to stick his mates in positions where they can earn money to come up with ridiculous ideas under the ECHR to keep people in this bloody country. So it's just rhetoric, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's come too late in the day. He has realised, and other members of the Labour Party have realised, I think, quite how unpopular illegal migration and aspects of legal migration are. I think they were so sort of insulated in their own bubble that they were still buying the whole diversity is our strength, refugees are welcome here, and everybody by definition is a refugee kind of line. I don't think that they really clocked just how bad or unpopular it was with the general public that so many people are coming here illegally and taking up so many resources. And I think it's starting to filter through now that you are consistently seeing Labour not very far away from the Conservatives in the poll and Reform sort of creeping ever and ever ahead, despite the fact that they have no real policies beyond we don't like very much migration. That, I think, is starting to sound the alarm bells, especially seeing as Labour is also really struggling to turn the economy around. They need to win on something. They need something that the public's going to go, yes, I agree with that, because thus far they almost seem to be just butting heads with their own voters. The problem is, as you pointed out, voters are not completely stupid. They're going to sit there and go, so what changed? Because up until now, it seems to us like you were really pro these people.
I think it's really interesting because I've always believed that over the last few years the British people have become more pessimistic and more cynical about British politics. But, you know, whether it's the expenses scandal or Brexit, whatever, the different prime ministers, what the Tories did, etc., etc. But I'm also convinced, and I think you're right, this naivety amongst politicians of all sides, that they stand there and they say, no, it's all about, you know, workers' rights. It's all about the cost of living. I absolutely would say that the number, I don't care what anybody tells me, I would say that from left to right and top to bottom on this country, that most people will mention illegal migration because as the cost of living has been, as the bills have risen, as the world seems a scarier place, and with that, everything we know is going to become harder and harder to achieve. I think people, I said it earlier, Benedict, they're going, hold on a minute, why have I not broken the law? Why have I paid my taxes? Why have I tried to do everything correctly? Because all of a sudden, criminals are being treated better than me, illegal migrants are being treated better than me. In fact, every single person seems to be being treated better than me. And whether you're you fought for your country or you've worked your nuts off to provide the food as a farmer in this country, or you've given 50 years and you just want to enjoy yourself, I think people are really hacked off, and I don't think that's going away. And it amazes me, Benedict, that politicians have only just woken up to it. What, are they thick?
Well, that's the paradox at the heart of all of this, is that British people are told fundamentally that everybody is equal, everybody is equally valuable, and that we're all the same.
Just
and then,
not
as
us.
you just alluded to, there you have second, two-tier justice, two-tier when it comes to benefits, when it comes to all sorts of things. You only need to look at the proportion of social housing, for instance, in London, and how much of it goes to people born overseas. And people do justifiably go, but hang on, isn't the whole point that everybody was supposed to be on an equal playing field here? Now, you sort of juxtapose that again with the fact that British identities have been eroded. They've been eroded away over a very long time, but other people's identities have been told, oh, well, you can keep those because that's multiculturalism. You can't then, if you're the Labour Party, turn around and go, well, the problem is, of course, it's all about class. It's about class. Don't worry about migration or anything. It's about the super rich, getting on top of the working man. To which the traditional working class of this country goes, but hang on, you've eroded away our identity.
Yep.
You told us it doesn't matter, but everybody else's identity matters. So now you're trying to say it's nothing to do with that personal identity and it's everything to do with class. That doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense.
And I listen to the Labour Party and they talk again and again about workers and they talk about the common man and the working class. I'm telling you now, those people are not supporting or standing behind this Labour government. I want to know what you think, by the way. 0344 499 1000. Does he have a plan, Starmer? I don't think he's got a plan at all. The other thing, Benedict, which everybody seemingly agrees with, is they talk about deterrence. They talked about Rwanda. I wasn't a massive fan. Why don't we just stop giving away so much to people who don't deserve it?
Well, I mean, that would be a great start. I think
it would, wouldn't it?
Look at what's happening in the United States right now with this Doge department cutting US aid and the newfound impetus and desire to deport an awful lot of people, even though they were told, the sheer scale, it can't possibly be done, it can't be managed. And the Trump administration has gone, maybe it can't, but we're going to have a real good go at it.
Absolutely.
And I think actually that's a lot of what this is. In the UK, the attitude from politicians for decades has been, sounds like hard work. Sounds like a lot of hard work. Sounds like hard work that I don't want to do. And this can go all the way back to Brexit. And I know that Guardianistas like to paint Brexit as being this great big xenophobic vote against migrants and Europe and all that. But actually, fundamentally what it was a culture in this country of politicians going, oh, well, I'd love to do something about that, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. I'd love to change this policy. But we can't because Europe decides that. So we can't do anything. So the British people turned around and said, well, we're going to remove that barrier. We're going to get rid of that block.
Like hell we did.
You can do things. And the British political establishment went, oh, hell, now we can do things. Well, now we've got something else. It's called the ECHR. The ECHR stops us from deporting these people, from doing the hard work. And that's the problem. And that's
why don't they? You are saying to me that British politicians of all parties actually don't want to sort immigration because they're lazy?
It's not just because they're lazy.
Or they're thick and they don't have an answer, or they're scared of the reaction, or they don't want to take on detractors, or what? All of that.
Partly it's because they're lazy. Don't get me wrong. A lot of it is because of that. There is also the fact that if you increase the size of the population in the country and you suppress wages, that's good for GDP, which is an inaccurate measure of wealth. Let's remember that. But that's the measure that they like to give us. They like to say, GDP is growing, the economy is growing by 0.1%, even though that means we're all getting poorer. That's how they like to spin it. And it also helps a lot of businesses if they can import people who will work for almost no money, and that sort of suppresses margins. So a lot of businesses benefit from this, but working people do not. That's the key thing. And so as I say, it's a combination of laziness, economic and political laziness, but there is of course also that strain, and you have it in the Conservatives as much as you have it in Labour, who genuinely do not believe in borders. They do not believe in national identity, and they actually think that because Britain is a first world country, albeit an increasingly poor one, we have some sort of moral duty to take in all and sundry.
No, we don't. We have a moral duty as a country, as a sovereign country, to look after our own people. I'd love to know what you think, peeps, by the way. 0344 499 1000. We'll get your calls on. What do you want? Harry and Meghan, two-tier justice, B&Q, or the worst story of the day? A toddler has been kicked out of a nursery after being accused of transphobia. What would you like?
I mean, I will take anything other than Meghan and Harry.
Why? Don't tell me you're a Meghan and Harry fan.
rather put my head through a closed window than listen to any more Meghan and Harry. Have they not gone yet? I thought we'd reached peak Meghan and Harry. I'll take two-tier justice. I will happily take two-tier justice. Or indeed the toddler. Let's do the toddler. Why not? Let's start with that.
A toddler has been kicked out of a nursery after... This again sends me into, like, madness, where I feel like I should be in a padded cell. A toddler has been kicked out of a nursery after being accused of transphobia. New figures reveal the child aged 3 was suspended for abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity. The Department of Education... 94 kids. So this is some information from the... Oh, what is this? The Department of Education. Statistics indicate 94 pupils at similar primary institutions were suspended or permanently excluded for transphobia or homophobia from the ages between 3 and 7. Sorry, Oliver's 5. He wouldn't even... 3? You're going to be transphobic? I'm going to kick the bin. Excuse me a minute, I keep kicking it. It's going over there. What is wrong with us, man? What? I mean, 3...
I mean, that 3-year-old displays a sense of humour that Meghan and Harry do not. So I'll give them that.
Stop talking about Meghan and Harry, man. It's boring.
No, I think this is where you see when ideology sort of captures people's ability to think rationally. Oh. And there are far too many people in this country who only see things through this ideological prism. Yeah. Not unlike a lot of politicians who see, who can literally see their country disintegrating and think what we need is more migration and we need lower wages rather than the opposite. This is the same sort of thing where you'll have somebody who will be faced with a toddler who might have said anything. It could have been something about how, I don't know, that person's dress looks silly or that person looks funny or something like that. And as you say, it's a 3-year-old. They're figuring things out. They're making observations. They're only just getting a grasp of language, and some busybody teacher has gone, oh, that's a hate crime. That's what they've done.
It's a bloody hate crime. Oliver's granddad was appalled when he apparently tried to dress on at school. This is ridiculous. The whole thing. I keep coming back. It's priorities, Benedict, isn't it? Yeah. Maybe I am actually getting old, but to be worried about that, to be worried about, what's this? Have you heard the B&Q story?
Go on, what's the B&Q story?
B&Q staff have been told that phrases like blind, drunk and deaf to our pleas are offensive to disabled people. This is a 30-page inclusive language guide issued by the DIY chain, warning against using those phrases or others that associate impairments with negative things. Oh, blimey, banned. I mean, honestly, honestly...
If you're blind drunk in B&Q, I think you've got slightly bigger problems than offending a disabled person. There are power tools and all sorts. Again, it's nonsense. It's busybodyism. It's being difficult for the sake of it. It's creating regulations to make yourself feel important, make yourself feel like you're making a change. Because actually, the people who do this, the people who set these regulations, they live very mundane lives. They don't achieve very much in their day-to-day life. So they feel as if they're creating some change, that they go to the poor workers at B&Q, now, you can't say that, you can't do that. And then they go home at the end of the day and they feel that they've done some good. And the average B&Q worker has just gone, honestly, what kind of impact has that had on my day? I just want to get through my shift.
I think it's just, we talk about wokeism and we talk about ideology. It's insanity. And just to finish with you, because brilliant, and you left it till the best to last. This is the sort of thing that I was in a cobbler's this morning, and the cobbler, as my favourite word of the day, was telling me how he loved talk because he's fed up with what's happening to the world. But he hears this because I forgot to write his name down. Ethnic minority criminal suspects are being given priority by judges when they're considering bail after a conviction underlined, as new two-tier justice guidelines are drawn up by the Ministry of Justice. Now, I'm not going to point the finger at anything. I'm going to use this as a general. I know there's this sentencing council and... So where I come from, my morality is based on this. If anybody steals or commits bodily harm or whatever, I don't give a fat rat's backside what colour their skin is, what their sexual orientation is, whether they're religious or not. We surely live in a world that says, you break the law, those are the consequences, but now are not, apparently, if you've got a certain way about you, a colour of a skin or a religion. That's appalling.
It is appalling. And frankly, if you were going to make an argument for a difference based on ethnicity or, not being from this country, I would have thought it would be the other way around. I would have thought that if you come to this country and you take from this country and you decide that you're going to sort of make a life here and try and earn money from it, that you ought to be treated slightly more harshly than somebody else because you're coming here and you're trying to assimilate. If you then break the law, that sort of shows that you're not that.
And then we get we can't deport this person because they'll be treated really badly back where they came from because they've committed a crime.
Oh, of course. Where was it? Iran or something. Some rapist said, I don't want to be sent back to Iran because I might be stigmatized for being a rapist. And you're sat there thinking, yeah, good.
Because you're a rapist, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You should be stigmatized here for it. Perhaps not as badly as you would be in Iran, but that was your mistake for being a rapist. Sorry about that, buddy. But, again, the very
If you're just tuning in, this is part of a wider sentence. If you're just tuning in to sorry, I'm a racist, buddy, it wasn't talking... Yeah, OK, crack on.
I didn't even say racist. I said something much worse. But the fundamental point is about our justice system that was revolutionary about our justice system.
Yep.
Everybody was equal. Everybody got the same sentence. Everybody had the same access to justice at a time when most countries were arbitrary and genuinely did have two-tier system. One rule for the elite, for the privileged, and another rule for the ordinary people. This country did away with that, and it was a magnificent thing. The fact that we are now regressing, going backwards, whilst the rest of the world ostensibly tries to catch up to what we gave them, I think that's insane that we are allowing that to happen. And I know it's done with the best of intentions, but it is outrageous.
Right, so best of intentions. Harry Cole tried to put the other side, was qualifying it, saying that in the past, sentencing against black men, young black men, for certain crimes was more severe than it was for white men. Absolutely repugnant and wrong. Has to be straight down the middle. But the dial's gone the other way, as he quite rightly said, completely the other way, to the point at which you end up thinking this is yet more madness, this is yet more virtue ticking, box ticking, which in the end, again, it's so difficult, isn't it, not to sound like you're some sort of, I live here, I'm white. I'm not saying that. I don't care where you come from. I just believe in justice across the board. Across the board.
But again, equally, you can't rectify the sins of the past with, sort of an unbalanced justice system in the present. Okay, maybe somebody nowadays, maybe, as you say, maybe somebody 60, 70 years ago was discriminated against on the basis of their colour. What on earth does that have to do with restorative justice now? Why does that mean that a rapist or something who is an ethnic minority should be let off easier? That doesn't make their crime any less severe.
Absolutely.
That's an outrageous idea. It's very, very stupid. But again, most government policy in this country nowadays is pretty stupid. It doesn't surprise me.
0344 499 1000. You're not going anywhere. We've got a call. This is brilliant. I love him. He's in Gloucester. David, tell us your story and welcome to Talk Drive.
Hello, Jeremy. How are we all?
Very good. You sound like I'm on a game show. I'm here to win. Hello. How are you?
Hello. I just wanted to tell you after last week, the weather's lovely here because you thought you'd be interested.
Gloucester.
But, I know. I'm only joking. But no, they were talking about this. I get sick to death of these documents that come out about people will be offended by this note and that note. I am blind. Completely blind. I am disabled. And believe me, I've been to my blind group this afternoon, and we take the mickey out of each other. We are not worried. The only person who is going to be offended is the idiot that wrote this rubbish document.
Honestly, I swear to God, this is on the story. I love you for coming on. This is the B&Q for people just tuning in. Staff have been told that phrases like blind drunk or blimey or deaf to our ears are offensive to disabled people. A 30-page abusive language guide has been, it's probably cost £100,000, has been written. This lovely man, David, is a blind man from Gloucester, and you don't give a toss, do you?
No, and I'll tell you what. One of the carers, he brings his wife up. He fell over his wife's wheelchair the other day, and he's broken both his thumbs. And what were we doing? We were taking the mickey out of him because we were saying, "Oh well, you can join the groovy gang, for the only fools and horses."
See,
and well, you got your thumbs up now, mate. And that's how we are. We all just take the mickey out of each other.
Love you, David. Listen, do you think the world's gone mad? Do you think common sense has gone out the window?
Oh, completely and utterly. It is just madness. I am sick of it. That's why I rang in, because It's just another, why? Who is offended? The only person who's offended is the person that's written this document or the people that believe this document, not the people who are genuinely disabled, genuinely blind, deaf, or whatever. Because I am one, and believe me, it doesn't matter. I don't give a monkeys.
It is Monday, and that is the call of the week from David in Gloucester. That tells you everything you need to know, Benedict, doesn't it? The madness. I mean, there's a guy. Just ridiculous. Shut up, all of you. Go away.
It does, and it's sort of the way that this is always done is it treats disabled people as if they have to be victims in perpetuity. Actually, most disabled people, spoiler alert, because they've lived their whole lives being disabled, are very robust, have a good grounded sense of self and of humour, as you've just heard, and they don't need some busybody in HR standing up for them because they've had to do it every day of their lives, and they've become bulletproof, just like the gentleman you heard just there.
Great to have you on, B. Always great to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. Conservative commentator Benedict Spence, live and exclusive on Talk Drive. What is it, 5:23? As a disabled wheelchair user, my local B&Q's disabled toilet has been broken for the past 4 months. Apparently, it needs a new lock and the grab rail replacing. If only I could find a shop nearby that was full of tradesmen and sold such items who concentrated on the right things. Marie, you're a legend as well. Talk Drive.
Somehow, a police constable is telling elected officials, including an MP, not to do their democratic job of deciding which casework they take on and how they do things. It is a very, obviously I was aware of this before from the emails, but as this has emerged, it's an extraordinary extra layer to it, because you can't help but wonder why were Hertfordshire constabularies so sort of, I suppose, fixated with the particular issue. Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
About 5:26. Never have it. Very nice chocolates, by the way. We were delivered this afternoon. Thank you. I always get her name wrong. What's the name again? Jana. You see, Jana has brought in some lovely chocolates, and I've been stuffing my face for, so I'll probably be sick. 0344 499 1000, text 287 Dan, Jez, oh my God, This will probably offend a couple of people. If it does, you're listening to the wrong channel. When my lad was in nursery a few years ago, I picked him up one afternoon. On the way out, we met a slightly tubby bloke in the corridor. My son looked at me and said, he's a whopper. And we kept on walking. I think probably the Toddler police should have arrested him and put him in jail. The world's gone mad. Dan in Gloucester. George Holloway. How many migrants will come over on the boats by the year 2030? Labour will not last beyond 2030. Reform will come in and have to undo everything that's wrong with this country. George, listen, I made it perfectly fair and obvious about what I thought about reform, but I will say this. I will absolutely say this. We want to hear how. I'm sick and tired of hearing people say we will sort it. How are we going to sort it? Are we going to stop the boats? Are we going to make it harder for people to come here? Are we going to process people? No, I'll tell you what you should do, right? All of that, and stop making it so much of a bloody red carpet. Stop laying it out for people who haven't paid in. We're going to Hull. Ruby, hello.
Hi, JK.
Can I sing something?
Yes.
Oh, Ruby, don't take your love to town. Kenny Rogers, Ruby, don't take your love to town. How's Hull?
It's lovely and sunny. I'd just like to say what a great show you've got, JK. But my husband normally comes on, Phil, and I'm so angry about this two-tier court business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's racism all the time. You're all right if you're black-faced or you're ethnic, different colours, but what about poor white men? What about my poor husband if he went to court? And this, and the other thing is the religious, the Muslims and everybody are taking over our country.
Well, listen. Let me just nail this so that people don't jump up and down. I'll be honest with you, Ruby, as I am with everybody. I said it earlier. This is, for people just tuning in, this is because in a couple of days, laws will be passed in this country that will say that ethnic minority criminal suspects who are sitting or standing in front of a judge who's considering whether to pass a custodial sentence or to grant bail whilst awaiting trial are going to be told to basically be more sympathetic and they should prioritise the cases of ethnic minorities, women and transgender subjects because they may be at disproportionately high risk. I would simply say this, Ruby, I'm not getting into debates about this country. For me, I would like everybody to get on. What I hate genuinely is, and you make the point, that there are many white people who are beginning to feel, or many people who've lived in this country all their lives, that actually they're at the back of the queue. There can be no justice, nothing can ever convince me that somebody who breaks the law should get away with or have a more lenient, if you like, sentence passed simply because of where they come from or what they believe in. Surely you agree with that?
But this country, it is a Christian country or Roman Catholic, whatever, and it's the Bible. If in the Bible it says your 10 commandments, do you know what I mean? You do not thieve, you do not commit adultery and all that business. Where has that gone?
Oh, hold on. Ruby, I'm going to have to go because I've got breaking news exactly about this story. Breaking news. Well, listen. Sorry, has sense arrived? The Sentencing Council has just announced that it's going to delay the introduction of its two-tier guidance after being threatened with emergency legislation to block it by the government. Well done. Lord Justice William Davis, the head of the council, was set to announce the move just hours before the guidance was due to take effect on Tuesday. The policy, which we've been talking about today, has raised concerns that criminals from minority backgrounds could avoid jail with a more lenient community sentence. There are no requirements for similar pre-sentence background reports on offenders of any other ethnicity. Has sense finally prevailed? The Sentencing Council has just announced it's to delay, kick down the road, the introduction of its two-tier guidance after being threatened with emergency legislation to block it by the government. So I'm going to take my hat off to Shaban Mahmood and say fair play. The Justice Secretary has done the right thing. That was a backlash. That's the British people speaking. And that tells everybody everything, which is, you know what? It doesn't make bloody sense. If you break the law, it should be about not the colour of your skin, what you believe in, or indeed your sexuality. It should be about the fact you've broken the law and you should suffer the consequences. We're joined now by former Conservative MP, good friend of the show, Dr. Bob Seeley. We'll bring you straight to that point, Bob. This ridiculous story that was out today, two-tier justice nightmare, that if you came from a certain ethnic background, if you were a woman or a transgender subject, you could be treated more leniently by a judge. The Sentencing Council, who need to be fired instantly, Donald Trump style, is to delay the introduction of its two-tier guidance after being threatened with emergency legislation this morning to block it by the government. Our hats off to Miss Mahmood, yes?
Yes, look, we're getting a result. That's good. The Labour Party wouldn't have done it. The Labour government wouldn't have done it if the media hadn't been all over them.
No.
I'm not talking about the BBC. I'm talking about programmes like yours, but also Robert Jenrick. Robert Jenrick has been in the lead on this for the Conservatives, and he's done a superb job. And Kemi's done a good job in supporting him. So well done, Robert. You know, and if Rupert Lowe was talking about it as well, I've missed it, but I'm not saying he hasn't. But good luck to the people who've been campaigning against this. It's been an absolute disgrace, and actually, it's worse than you're reading it out. Because if you look at what they're saying, they're basically saying if you've come from a minority group that has a historic injustice 200 years ago, you can use that to justify behaviour now. It is properly imbecilic stuff. Why it ever got through anywhere near being implemented, I do not know.
Tell me about this Sentencing Council. This is a bunch of fuddy-duddies who they... Because, I mean, she spoke to them, Mahmood. She wrote to them and said this is ridiculous, and they told her to do one. I mean, she's an elected... Whether I agree with Shabana Mahmood's party, she is our Justice Secretary. She is an elected representative. Who are these people? These people will be sacked instantly by Donald Trump.
A bunch of them are... I mean, look, not all of them are sort of... How can one say this politely? Not all of them have a track record for coming out with woke nonsense, but quite a few of them do. So I think, unfortunately, Lady Carr has come out with some really questionable things to say. Likewise, Lord Justice Davis. I haven't got the full list in front of me, but there's certainly some race grifters there who've made a career out of sort of diversity politics, shall we say. And I think it's actually, to be honest, they're now getting the same sort of grief that politicians get. And it's interesting that judges are now feeling the heat for the stupidity of some of their, well, what you and I would consider the daftness of some of their opinions.
Good.
And some of their judgments, especially the immigration judgments, who are endangering people in this country. You know, if you're a Pakistani paedophile, if you're an alcoholic, you get to stay. You abuse kids here, not back in Pakistan, because people may look at you not favourably if you're an alcoholic paedophile. You know, it's just ridiculous stuff. What is happening is a disgrace, and I'm glad that common sense is beginning to get back in. One should be very careful about this. You know, Starmer and his mates and the Attorney General, they're not on our side, but they are under a lot of pressure. And actually what they're now doing is they're scared of doing the wrong thing, because with Labour already so low in the opinion polls, and the only thing people think they're doing right is Ukraine, everything else is going badly wrong from them. I think they're really beginning to feel the heat. So
it's really interesting that, because somebody was saying earlier, and my brain is that of a 60-year-old man, so I forget who it was, but somebody was saying on the show earlier that actually the point to this is they will look at those opinion polls and nothing. I mean, common sense. I mean, we go on about it. Trump talked about it. I think the British people are becoming more and more switched on, and it's like the illegal migration. Today we've got our Prime Minister standing up saying, illegal migration to the UK makes me very angry, but he's a left-wing human rights lawyer who has feathered his own nest and that of his colleagues via the ECHR for as long as you could remember. He couldn't in any way be described as a man who's patriotically British. It's all about doing the right thing in the global world. Well, now he's saying that. It's window dressing. The British people, if you know this and I know this, nine people out of 10, if you said to 10 people in a room, 9 of them would say immigration's a disgrace, 9 of them would say that two-tier justice is an absolute joke, break the law, suffer the consequences. I don't believe the Labour Party have an answer to the immigration problems. What do we get? Old Mrs Ball said today that the increased numbers, 30,000 since you lot lost power, was down to the weather. That's all we've had. We've had nothing concrete, have we, Bob? Nothing.
Well, I think we all can agree that in summer and in spring, the weather is better than in winter.
Well done, Mrs Balls.
But from that place, you know, I think Yvette Cooper, you know, crack on. When it comes to doing anything correctly, well, they're now saying they're going to look at third-party states or third territories to deal with immigration. Well, we had one. It was called Rwanda. The Labour Party did everything they could to stop it, just like they did everything they could to fight against illegal deportations. It was Starmer only, 2 years ago, who was signing letters against deporting violent criminals.
Yep, absolutely.
Including rapists. I mean, I'd say this about Keir Starmer. He's so shameless in switching positions, he may actually start adopting this stuff. So we may actually get some decent policies from him, but it's not because he means it. It's because he's now petrified of the polls, and he's just, a year in, or less than a year in, this government is really scared of what's going to happen.
So a year in, they're looking at the polls, right? But I want you were a politician. You lived through the Tory nightmare by your own admission, and you were an arch critic. Don't take this personally, but why does it seem that so many of our politicians, and I include several of the last Tory MPs and the Prime Ministers and this one, have absolutely no bleeding common sense? How are you expected? Just hear me out 1 second. Yeah. How are you believing, or how is anybody believing that the British people are going to go, no, seriously, right, I've lived my life correctly, I've paid my taxes, I've never broken the law, and I'm really happy to be freezing cold, to be treated like whatever, and I'm really happy for these people who've done nothing to come over here and end up in a 4-star hotel. And while we're at it, I'm really happy that I've been burgled today, and if it was a white person or a brown person or a religious thing, they're all going to be treated differently. I'm really happy with this world where B&Q staff are being told that you can't say blimey or, blind drunk, because that will be offensive. The world, politicians of all sides, I genuinely believe this, Bob Seeley, need to understand that however disenchanted the British public were with politics, I think they've woken up to the fact that their voice is quite relevant and that they are fed up to the back teeth with what is... It's madness, man. It's madness.
Okay, my worry is actually that people are just going to sort of give up on it.
I don't believe they will give up on it. I think they're going to get angrier and angrier.
I hope people stay engaged, is what I can say, and I hope people express their opinions and their voices. But my worry is a lot of people will just get turned off because they will see a Labour Party that's lamentably failing. I hope they can come. I hope our voters come back to us. But look, we've got a long way to go. We know that. We're under new leadership. When it comes to the overall point here, Jeremy, I just think the state has, over the last 15, 20, 25 years, it's developed a different agenda from the rest of us. And I think there is going to be a reset, and the sooner it comes, the better. I think a lot of people voted for a reset at the last election in the sense they protested against a government that wasn't delivering.
I don't think they voted for a reset. I think they voted to kick you lot out of office after 14 years. I'm being completely honest. What did Labour win with 34%? That's a joke, man. And the day you tell me that was a genuine election result, the Liberal Democrats, I don't think they even know what they stand for, won 72 seats. That tells me everything.
No, fair enough. I think what I'm saying is that people voted to punish us because they wanted an agenda that was more conservative. Yeah. And what they ended up with is an agenda that is absolutely the opposite. So some things we got right, some things we didn't. We didn't get immigration right. You're absolutely spot on. And we got punished for it. But we've now got a government that is going completely in the wrong way when we were at last actually trying to do the right thing.
Does that make you mad as a Tory? Does it make you absolutely mad that the incompetence of the last few years of Tory rule has led this nightmare to happen? Because I believe that that's the bit. As we go further down the road, I don't believe it'll be the new management or a changing of the guard or whatever. You are going to have to get back from people their anger that your guys' incompetence, your parties, has allowed these awful people to be in power for 5 years. That's the feeling I get.
Okay, the feeling I get is, I was out in the street, I was out in a village called Arrowton on the Isle of Wight last weekend. There were probably about 10-15% of the people as immigration was the most important, even for a local by-election, and for other people as a mix of things. Look, I think in a year's time, I think memories will start to fade of the previous government. I do think this last government, look, I know that you like to kick it, Jeremy, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure why we're talking about the past. We should be talking about the future. But just to answer your question, I do think we got some things wrong. I don't think we got everything wrong. I think we handled the economy a damn sight better than the Labour Party.
Sure, absolutely.
We were creating wealth. We were creating jobs. We were getting taxes down. We were getting national insurance down for businesses. So we were moving in the right direction after a horrible time with COVID and a horrible time with the Russian, the oil price hikes. So we're getting the economy right. We're getting education right. We didn't get immigration right, and we know that. And my advice to Kemi, and I speak to Kemi pretty regularly, and she's very, au fait with with this is that we have to have something which is absolutely written in stone to win back people's trust on this.
I don't disagree, and let's make the point, and I made it many times. I'm not kicking the other government for anything. I mean, with the leading economy in the G7 when the Tories lost power, completely acknowledge and accept that. Sadly, the shenanigans has meant the British people, am I allowed to say deaf, or will that offend a disabled person who's been to B&Q? So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like a Tory voter, I was, huge frustration, and I think that many MPs would share the same.
Jeremy, I feel your frustration because I felt that we should have got out the ECHR, but actually we should have done much more. And the point that Kemi makes about the ECHR is not just the ECHR. You get rid of the ECHR, you've still got the Equalities Act, you've still got the Human Rights Act. We need to unpick all this new Labour stuff. We didn't in the first 5 years because the Lib Dems wouldn't let us, and then we had Brexit and God knows what else, okay? So we need to actually get that right. And if we do have a Bill of Rights, we've effectively got to have a bill of responsibilities with it, so that, you know, the system is designed for the majority and designed for the people of this country. And that means rewriting not just one law, the ECHR, but rewriting others as well, to mean that actually Conservatives can get back to being allowed to govern and not being overruled all the time by left-wing judges coming out with some of the absolute idiocy that you are now rightly, almost on a daily basis, you, Mike Graham and others commenting on.
Listen, it's always a pleasure, mate. We love you being on. Bob Seeley, thank you very, very much indeed. This is Talk Drive. What is it? 18 minutes to 6. Back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
To listen to him 6 until 10, Monday to Friday, only here on Talk, the legendary Michael Graham. To the phone lines, 0344 499 1000. Let's go to Nottingham. Scott, sorry, got to rush you. 2 minutes only on Talk Drive. What do you want, my friend?
Cool. Jeremy, in 2018, Theresa May signed the UK up to the UN Compact on Migration. This was a global commitment signed by everyone, pretty much bar Australia and the US under Trump, to have more migration, to make migration easier, and to make all migration legal by default. So they committed to what is effectively open borders, and they have been working behind the scenes to progress that ever since.
Why?
All we hear is, well, this is that global view of people should be able to move and live wherever they want. Separately, it suits businesses. It helps to destroy cultural identity. You don't need a British identity if you are just an unnamed state as part of a bigger organization like the EU. But the goal has always been, and this is why people don't get removed, you get to stay. Come legally, come illegally, it doesn't matter. things will happen that allow those people to always just remain in the country. And we have seen legal and illegal migration go up massively ever since that point. And there's no evidence that anyone is doing anything. We've had two governments with massive majorities. They wanted to change things. They could change things.
Do you understand or believe that the British people are getting more agitated by the day?
Well, absolutely, because people can see this. We've had 10 years' worth of sound bites of we're going to smash the gangs, and the same from the Tories.
True.
There is never any activity that takes place to reduce overall migration, legal or illegal. It's absolutely aligned with what they committed us to for the UN. They work with other countries to do this. So when Starmer is in his, wherever he's been in the last couple of days saying we will work on trying to fix this with other countries, those countries also signed up to being able to let people go anywhere. And people want to come here because we give them everything for life.
But that's appalling to your own people who are suffering, and that's why it becomes central to people's focus, surely.
Of course it is. But we don't have a say anymore in what the government does.
Wow. Sorry, I won't stop until I did listen. Listen, great description, Scott in Nottingham. Thank you. How depressing is that? It's got to change, hasn't it? Georgina's in London. Just a couple of minutes, Georgina. Sorry to rush you. How are you doing?
I'm absolutely great. Just finished dinner. Well, I'm not getting depressed.
What did you have for dinner?
I made some meatballs and I did homemade egg pasta, my own garlic bread, and they're just eating the dessert now.
Who's they? The children?
The whole family.
Oh my God, I'm in love. Honestly, I don't eat during the week because by the time
I'm going to start sending you food, Jez. I am going to start sending you food.
And honestly, when I get home, it's 9:30, and all I have is toast. I don't eat anything. Right? They all get home. I don't because it'll be 2 hours. But if I go home, literally no dinner, and you're having meatballs. My stomach is now doing cartwheels. Anyway, crack on. What you got?
Right, well, this country is now fast becoming a global joke thanks to Mr. Starmer. He's got no intention of smashing gangs. He thinks he's telling the British public what they want to hear. We are all over this guy now. He's about as much use as an ashtray on a motorbike. These immigrants are not only fighting age, but they're voting age, Jed.
Yeah.
Starmer will do exactly what the Democrats did in the last US election and take away the requirement to show identification when the voting comes in 4 years' time. You've got to take into consideration we've got the equivalent of 700,000 immigrants per year. That's what we know of. So in 4 years, you're talking 4 million plus voters that will vote for this party. It's unacceptable.
Listen, I am with. I couldn't agree more. And I can only, it's very difficult. I would never advocate. All I would say is, if you listen to the people that I listen to on this station and in general life, I'm not saying people are mobilising, I'm not saying anything like that, but people are getting more and more hacked off, and they want a vehicle by which they can say, we're not racist, we're not misogynist, we're not Harry and Meghan, allegedly. We're none of those things. Actually, we're just saying, can we please be treated the same? Would be nice, because we've been here all our lives. I do have to go. I'm just going to sit here with my stomach wrung. Send me some of your meatballs. I'd love it. 10 to 6, Talk Drive.
I don't know why actually you need a sentencing council, because surely that's what MPs are for. You know, the guidelines should be pretty clear, or the law itself should be pretty clear on how things work. What I think it does show is just how rattled they are about where they stand at this point, the Labour Party and this Labour administration, because there is a very widespread perception now of two-tier justice. They know that that is a big political problem, and now, even though it's all their own fault, they're trying to do something about it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. The old man used to call my mother the War Office. My War Office, my beautiful wife Victoria, just texted me and gone, you forgot to say that I do always offer to make you dinner. Yeah, you do, but it's 9:30 at night and you've been with the kids all day and I don't want to impinge. I just go hungry. 0344 499 1000 is our telephone number. Text to 87222. Loads coming up. That breaking news in the next hour. Sentencing Council shockingly suspends its two-tier guidelines after a bit of a backlash from us and other people in the media saying it's rubbish. If you commit a crime, it doesn't matter about the colour of your skin, your sexuality, your religious beliefs, you should go to prison. You should suffer whatever the consequences for that crime are. That's it. With Isabel Oakeshott from 6 o'clock. Before that, push the button. Oh, hold on a minute. Oliver and Iris must be in the car. Ollie, I love you. Iris, I love you. Push the button, Amy.
Sport Summary on Talk.
Busy show today. No Sam Ellard, doesn't show his face anymore, far too important, but we've got the man. Football editor from The Sun, Charlie Wyatt. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm just going to freely admit I've hated the last 2 weekends. I loathe the Nations League or any of these stupid games because it means I really, really miss. Ryan and I are the same. We miss the Premier League when it's not on. It changes the whole weekend, doesn't it?
Do you not like the FA Cup? I think it's been all right. I get it with the internationals.
I do like this year's FA Cup. I really would love to see Palace or Forest win the Cup. I genuinely mean that. Be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think, all neutrals, if we're being honest, wanted Bournemouth to beat Manchester City yesterday, didn't they? But, 3 out of 4, we mustn't forget Aston Villa, of course. It's a good lineup and it'll be brilliant that... I don't agree with the semi-finals being at Wembley. I'm sure you agree. I think that's a load of nonsense.
Ludicrous,
It's all about money, Jeremy. We know that. But it will still be a great occasion and it'll be great. There will be fans and it'll make a great atmosphere. I've done so many finals recently where it's not the fault of Liverpool or Chelsea or Man City, but they go there so often. It's not the same. That's why Newcastle was brilliant a couple of weeks ago. Exactly. And that's why we're going to get, let's hope, at least one different team. Or, of course, if Forest beat City, we're going to get a totally different cup final and it'll be brilliant for the neutrals. And it's basically 2 fingers up at all the big clubs who dominate too much.
And who also treat a competition that I think still amazing with disdain by putting 9 or 10 changes in. I would say this. On present form, I'd back Nottingham Forest to beat Manchester City. Manchester City are about as consistent as chocolate in the microwave at the moment. I think Forest look fantastic. I really do. I think people disagree with me. Eddie Howe, yes, of course, close to Newcastle. Everyone. I think Nuno Espirito Santos is without doubt the manager of the season. I think the Nottingham Forest story is incredible, don't you?
Yeah, I think Arne Slot might have a few Liverpool fans.
I would only say about Arne Slot, listen, he was left a garage of Ferraris. Santos was 40 players, a chairman who's a complete nightmare. He's brought complete stability to Nottingham Forest. You'd have to say that.
Yeah, he's done really, really well. I mean, obviously they've spent £200-300 million before that, but you're right. It's been a basket case, Nottingham Forest, and it still sort of is in some respects. But on the pitch, they've been absolutely brilliant. It's a great story. I think everyone of a certain age, can remember Nottingham Forest in the 70s winning the European Cup. It's lovely to see them back there. And equally, while it's been a great story for them, I think some neutrals are looking at Manchester United and Tottenham and maybe finding the league table a little bit funny. Not my views, but others.
Well, I think the league table's crap because West Ham aren't doing very well. Villa... we're going like a Rolls-Royce in the Premier League, and so that's slowed down a bit, but they have a very fine chance. I think Villa-Palace will be a great game. Palace have been extraordinary recently.
Yeah, it'll be good. And look, if City do get knocked out, and this, I agree with you, the league table suggests that Nottingham Forest, they're 6 points clear of City, they've got a good chance. So yeah, it'll be really good. And of course, a European spot, if you win the FA Cup, that will take you into the Europa League. So there's a spot in Europe guaranteed up for grabs as well. So of course, as you've just said, Nottingham Forest, they're probably going to qualify for Europe anyway. But for Crystal Palace, in particular, that would be a real boost. Villa are going to finish in Europe. And in terms of Aston Villa, let's not forget they've got Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League as well next week. So it's going to be, a good end. In some respects, I think the Premier League's become a bit of a disappointment. Liverpool have won the league already. We know which 3 teams are going down, so that's a bit dull. But at least I think the FA Cup's saving things and a bit of a fight for Europe as well.
Saka, the Arsenal winger, who by anybody's standards is extraordinary, are ready to go after 3 months out. They've missed him, Arsenal, haven't they?
Yeah, they've really missed him. And yeah, hugely. And, if he'd have been fit, and of course, if Arsenal have signed a blooming striker, maybe they'd be putting in a proper challenge to Liverpool. But unfortunately, that title is done now. But I think it's good for Arsenal, good for England manager Thomas Tuchel, of course, to get Saka back. Brilliant player, and it'd be good to see him play. And yeah, it could be starting against Fulham tomorrow as well.
Quick comment actually about Tuchel. England winning those 2 games, sort of bloodless victories against teams with 11 players behind the ball. Somebody gave me a stat. Thomas Tuchel, he has 8 games, 8 camps, or 6 camps, 2 games before the World Cup. I didn't.
That's right.
I'm not being rude. I didn't see anything that made me go, "Oh my God, this is going to be different." It looked the bleeding same, and it will be the same, won't it? It's an 18-month contract.
I agree, and I think some respects is that maybe it wasn't as bad as under Gareth Southgate, and that's what Gareth Southgate was telling these players to go out and attack, and it wasn't happening. And I think Thomas Tuchel's done the same. A lot of international football's like that. Ultimately, you get to the finals, and it's down to fine lines. Of course, England got to the final. They deserved to probably get knocked out before that, but they pushed Spain all the way. Of course, lost on penalties 4 years earlier. So, yeah, it's such fine lines. And I think these qualifiers are dreadful. I totally agree with you. And I don't think England in the top 16 nations should be having to qualify for these tournaments.
You're a legend, Charlie White. One final comment. What do you make of Watford? You've only got 10 seconds. They're rubbish, aren't they?
Watford, they've not sacked a manager in the last couple of weeks, have they?
See, Ryan, that's the only thing you've got to look forward to. They haven't sacked their manager in 6 months. I can't
talk. I'm a Norwich fan, so we know better.
You're used to disappointment. Listen, we're all disappointed. West Ham, Norwich and Watford. Charlie, thank you so much indeed. Charlie Wright, read him. Football editor in The Amazing Sun. It's almost 6 o'clock. We're live across the UK. JK till 7. Isabel Oakeshott on the way. 0344 499 1000 as the Sentencing Council abandoned plans to say if you're a different religion or race, you can get away with a crime. She's here to talk sense after the...
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just on 6 o'clock, we're into the final hour of Drive for Monday. JK until 7. Kevin O'Sullivan with his political asylum. And the legend that is Petrie Hoskins from 10. She's a dish. Do you see what? Never mind. 0344 499 1000. Text to 2 Start your message with the word talk. Jane Knock. Knock, knock. Don't. It's silly. With his droning voice, Starmer is the most annoying and awful PM ever. He could get a job reading eulogies. What a shambles. I don't think he'd want him to read your eulogy, would you? Richard Rose, the first politician that tells me that he or she, is that your pronoun? Will pull us out of the ECHR and gives us equal policing and stop paying France so much of our money, I will vote for. Because I'm sick and tired of this country being Europe's doormat. Richard in Windsor, I couldn't agree more. Christina, Martin. I don't quite know what happened there. I'm 29 years of age and was born in the UK and have lived here all my life legally. I'm autistic and unemployed and struggling to find work because of my disability. These people come in on boats and they get the right life of Riley, and it really, really annoys me. Dave Clifford, good evening. Just to say it make you feel better, Jez, you talk about not having dinner because of your... Yes, I don't. 4 days a week I don't have dinner. It says here 3 days. Just to make you feel better, all those illegal immigrants are probably sat in their 4-star hotels now having a fillet steak with a nice glass of wine. It's put me in a great mood. Isabel Oakeshott, obviously I've always shared everything with the audience. Thank you for texting me late on Saturday night. How are you?
What did I text you? You got me worried now. What did I say?
I shall tell you what. Where's she gone? You said I was a name checked twice.
You were, yeah, you were. What's this about not eating dinner?
So on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's not fasting, although I have been hungry for 15 years. By the time I get back, it's 9:30, so I have a piece of toast and go to bed. That's it, I don't eat.
Oh, well, there you are. That's why you're in such great shape. So what are we going to talk
Isabel,
about?
you look amazing. How are you? This is just one big mutual love affair. Let's go straight to the main news story of the day. We woke up this morning to this ridiculous, mad ideological crap that said that ethnic minority criminal suspects are due to be given priority by judges considering bail under a new two-tier justice guideline drawn up by the Ministry of Justice. Judges and magistrates have been told they should prioritise the cases of ethnic minorities, women and transgender suspects because they may be at disproportionately higher risk. Literally half an hour ago, the power of the media. The Sentencing Council, made up of a bunch of people who obviously don't know what reality is, has announced it's to delay the introduction of this new two-tier guidance after being threatened with emergency legislation to block it by the government. Lord Justice William Davis, the head of the council, was set to announce the move just hours before. Naturally, the policy has caused complete outrage and they've pulled it. So do we salute Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, or are they just terrified of what everybody's worked out and they've just moved to do it? What's your thoughts?
Well, we're definitely not saluting any justice secretaries at this point. I think we can salute the media because we've done our jobs here on Talk and across our sister newspapers and so on in exposing what an outrage this would have been. And I also think that this is a bit of a victory for Robert Jenrick, who is not the leader of the Conservative Party, but is doing all the running insofar as the Conservative Party is making any news and headlines and actually achieving anything right now. It seems to be Robert Jenrick who is doing that. And he had actually threatened some kind of legal action. His background is as a lawyer. And he was going to take this whole thing to court and seek an injunction against this form of absolutely official two-tier justice. And it looks as if the government has, the Sentencing Council and the government together, one way or another, they've seen the light and have realised that this is not only a moral outrage, it's a political disaster for them.
And isn't it interesting? I was saying earlier, I mean, in Trump's America, right, This bloody Sentencing Council, made up of, I've absolutely no idea, Lord Justice William Davis, who apparently doesn't understand reality at all. Trump would have just sacked them in a heartbeat. I mean, how are these committees, quangos and organisations allowed the Sentencing Council? I mean, are these people ever... I mean, ridiculous, nonsensical.
Absolutely. I mean, it's bad enough that the voter has no chance to actually kick out all these mad lefty judges who keep on interpreting the law in such a way as to disadvantage our nation. But then we discover that there's a whole other tier of this, which is even more faceless and impossible to hold to account, and that's this sentencing council. And you know, the UK is full of these quangos, which have far more power than anyone could imagine. And
who set them up then? Who set these organs? Because the Labour Party have only been in for 9 months. Did the Conservatives like a quango then?
Well, I mean, every government I've ever reported on likes a bit of a quango. It's a way of basically shoving problems outside your government department and, you know, hoping that someone else does some of the hard work, and then
it means you don't have to make a decision. You could say, I've set up a quango to look into it. Is that what we're saying?
I think you spent too long listening to Keir Starmer, and you're actually getting quite good at imitating his voice.
Yes, well, I had a very important day today, you know. I'll do all of that in a minute. Sentencing councils, quangos, politicians not taking responsibility for their actions. Nobody that read what this sentencing council wanted to do. As I was saying, they're saying that if you're a woman, they were going to say if you were a woman, an ethnic minority, or you're a transgender suspect, you know, you need to take account of the trauma suffered by suspects whose relatives experience racism or discriminations and historical events. So we're saying that somebody of a certain colour, if 200 years ago there was a racist move towards somebody that was something to do with them, that they should be treated leniently. This is an absolute bleeding joke. I cannot believe we actually employ politicians who cannot see that this is an absolute joke. It's beyond me. It's ridiculous.
So much of what's happened and is happening to our country is beyond me and is ridiculous, and people are up in arms about it. And people can scarcely believe what is happening. Sometimes I think to myself, is it just because I'm immersed in it that I'm genuinely shocked every day?
No, I'm exactly the same. So I went on the score, and no, I'm exactly the same. And I went to the cobblers, right? I'm just being honest, to get a golf shoe stuck down for Henry. I'm telling you the truth, his feet, right? Genuinely, the bloke goes, oh my God, I love you on tour. What the hell's wrong with this world? Turns to his mate and goes, you can't say Jack anymore, everybody this is... I don't, unless I live in this bubble, but you convince me that I don't, and that's the beauty of this station. I don't believe that anybody doesn't think this tripe is not ridiculous, and that's why I find it even more ludicrous that it's even allowed or thought of in the first place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it isn't just us. I mean, it is right to kind of sense check. Is this just me? Am I just angry all the time because it's part of my job to cover these stories? But you know what's happening? People are getting much more politicised, you know, in a way that they weren't in the past. So when things are working and everything's sort of pretty much okay-ish, many people don't want to engage in politics. You know, they've got better things to do. They don't need to be wound up by things. Generally, their lives are fine. What I see, even in my own sort of friendship circle and so on, people who were not interested in politics at all before are now getting quite engaged in it and wondering what the hell they can do. How can they play their part to actually stop the rot? Because
do you know what? That is the truest thing I've heard for a long time. Because we do what we do, you feel like you're immersed in it. So at home or to friends, and whereas they go, they all go, no, it's an absolute bloody disgrace. How is that allowed to happen? How can we be treating our fellow citizens? Am I allowed to say that, or is that, I don't know, misogynistic, homophobic? I've no idea. I think that you're right as well when you say that I don't think there's a respect for politicians, but I think people are becoming politicised. I think that's nailed on. Back to an impression, that's the Sentencing Council. I decided today to listen to the British people. I want you to know that I'm very, very angry that illegal migration is happening so tremendously in the UK, and I've spoken to Mrs Balls, my Home Secretary, and she's explained that the 30,000 plus migrants who have arrived since Sunak left and I became the Prime Minister have only arrived because the weather's nice. Where's your hold on a second, mate. You said you were going to crush the gangs. Have seen no plan, absolutely nothing, and we're still giving France 500 million quid. Rhetoric, 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 nothing else.
Well, he has got a plan, Jeremy, and that's to have a meeting. He's actually inviting representatives from 40 countries to attend a meeting. As Mike Graham was saying this morning, only in the UK could a Prime Minister try to solve an immigration crisis by inviting a bunch more country representatives into the country who may rather like the country and perhaps decide to stay. But
breaking news, all 40 of those Prime Ministers and Home Secretaries have asked for political immunity. They're all staying here because we've given them all a council house. Jesus, God, it's ridiculous.
And then next they'll be bringing over multiple relatives and so on. But in all seriousness, I don't know how the Prime Minister can write in the pages of the newspapers today that he gets it. That's what he says. You know, I do get it. Understand why people are so annoyed. That's not good enough. What we want to hear is you, not just you saying that what you're actually going to do. And no amount of meetings is going to satisfy this problem. We need to see it stopping. We need to see the boats being turned around, picked up. Yes. Turned back the boats. Or if they're not prepared to do that, we need to see everybody who comes in by that route detained and then deported. And until that happens, it doesn't matter how many roundtable meetings with stakeholders and, every other bit of government jargon he can come up with take place. That's not going to satisfy voters. He can write as many articles as he wants in the pages of the Daily Mail saying he gets it. But, tomorrow there'll be more pictures of boats coming over and again, because the weather's quite nice. And I'm afraid this isn't going away until you make a proper deterrent.
I couldn't agree more. Oh, breaking news. Robert says, Jez, have you not heard of farm foods? They prepare meal for older people for when you get home. You can heat it up. Thank you. Dreadful man. Phone call time, Isabel Oakeshott. Love having you on. Let's go to Clacton-on-Sea. Oh, hello. It voted reform. Nigel, what's he called? I'm joking. Nigel Farage, of course, the local MP. Janice, welcome to Talk Drive. What you got?
Hiya. I noticed everyone takes my call because I'm in Farage County.
You what?
Farage County.
No, I take your call because we appreciate you ringing. Isabel Oakeshott's with me.
No. Yeah. Oh, hi, Isabel. And you got a lovely man as well.
Oh, good.
Sorry, are you talking about me or are you talking about Richard Tice?
Sorry.
What?
I'm really sorry. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I'm talking about Mr.
About what?
Oh, you phoned me.
Who are you? When you said to her, "You've got a lovely man," who are you talking about?
Yes.
Are you talking about me or Richard Tice?
Yes, Richard.
Richard. Right.
He's going to be so happy. I'm sure he's going to be listening to this, and he'll be very happy. So thanks for that, Dan.
Mr. Floppy.
But I've never seen Nigel here in Clacton.
Well, let me pick up on that, Janice, because Nigel works incredibly hard. I actually sometimes worry about Nigel because he's too hard. And if you don't see him in Clacton, it won't be because he is not working on behalf of you and his other constituents. What I can say is, as an amazing team, and someone of that stature can be quite thinly spread. But just because you don't see him doesn't mean he isn't doing anything.
Right. What did you want to say, my darling?
I want to say something. When I put all posters of him to vote for him here, I phoned up and I said, can I do anything? I'm 70-odd. I was going to go out, put in posters. Do you know what? I never got a phone call.
Oh,
but
God.
I like Nigel. I'm not putting him down. He's ruffling feathers, and we blooming well need that right now.
Couldn't agree more. Tell me, you said to my team I was born.
Phone call back. What?
You said you were born in 1951, and you cannot believe how nuts the world has gone.
Yeah, I think they're all calling us millionaires and all that. I'm certainly not a millionaire. My house was falling around me. But I think I was born in a time where it was great. We had the 60s to the 2000s, and now it's real. I'm worried for my country. It's absolutely going downhill. Every time I turn the TV on, there's some madness coming on. I want Nigel, and I want Richard, and those people come in and straighten this bloody country out.
Lovely to have you on, Janice, and thanks for not complimenting me at all. I must get a flicky hairstyle. 6:15, Isabel Oakeshott. That's lovely, isn't it?
What you need? You need more hairspray. That's what you need, Jezza.
This is interesting. Christine says, both. Nothing Starmer does even backing down on this two-tier justice system, it will not be remembered. He has tried to do over the British people far too often. I think that's what people feel, don't you, Isabel, genuinely?
Yeah, I do. So I was thinking about Starmer, and we've got local elections coming up, and I was thinking, you know, there's also there's a by-election. I was thinking, you know, would you send, if you're in charge of the Labour Party and you're not Starmer, you're in charge of trying to get it to do well in these elections, would you want Starmer going anywhere? And I think the answer is no. He's so despised by everybody that he's actually a kind of electoral liability.
I think there's no doubt. I will say this, and obviously when we're in Purda it's difficult with elections, but I think that it happened with Johnson, and if you look politically, when you're in power, you become in this sort of bubble because nobody likes you, and they end up going nowhere. The papers don't like you, the people don't. But I mean, I put it at his door. I think he's barking mad. I've got a couple of barking mad stories that are symptomatic of this country on Sir Keir Starmer. I'd love to throw at you, Isabel Oakeshott, if I possibly can. We heard news today that a toddler was amongst 94 toddlers to be kicked out, right? This one was 3, and he was suspended for abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity. 94 kids aged between 3 and 5, right, have been thrown out of nursery or kindergarten because they've upset transgender children. Can you not, honestly, you're a mother, I'm a father, that's ludicrous, that's nuts, that's just symptomatic, isn't it?
I actually think it's much worse than that. I actually think that is creepy and sick, because it is ascribing sexuality and ideas about sexuality to little children who know nothing of these things. And I personally I'd be glad to have my children, if they were kicked out of an institution like that, because I would worry seriously about the leadership of any kindergarten or nursery that was talking or thinking in those terms. These are innocent little children.
Yes.
They don't...
Three.
They're not interested in that. They just see little children, boys and girls. That's all they see. This is sick.
Couldn't agree more. Have you been to B&Q recently? Because if you do, don't say, and I quote, "Oh, I was blind drunk last night." Oh, please don't shout too loud. Honestly, my ears are hurting. I'll be deaf to this. Apparently, they've written a 30-page document, the bosses of B&Q, and staff have been told that phrases like blind drunk or blimey or deaf to our pleas are offensive to disabled people. We had an amazing guy on from Gloucester who's blind, who said, "It's absolute tosh. I couldn't give a fat rat's backside. This is complete wokeism at its most mad." But if you work at B&Q, if you say, "I'm sorry, I'm terrible hangover today, I was blind drunk," you will be fired for being disrespectful.
God, well, I used to like a bit of B&Q. Now you're putting me off. I'm going to have to go and get my paint.
I can't see Richard Tice at B&Q. He'd send the butler, wouldn't he? Do you know what I mean?
It would be me that goes to B&Q. I like to get a paint sample in B&Q. That's what I'm normally there for.
I can't imagine the Tice man does that. And the final story today, which is one that I really try not to rant too much about. Pro-Palestinian protesters are planning to take up the same sort of arms as Just Stop Oil, because there's a void now because they've all been arrested, and bring London to a standstill. So I put this to Blexley earlier and said, "This is outrageous," but he went, no, it's a good thing, because Just Stop Oil have stopped doing their protest because finally we had judges that jailed them. So all the pro-Palestinian people, all those students who don't give a toss during the holidays, maybe they'll do the same and they'll be thrown in jail as well. But maybe they won't because of two-tier... Oh, no, but they might now. That's what we have to deal with.
I just don't want that on our streets. I really don't. You know, it's just horrible. It's angry. It presents a terrible image of our country. And most importantly, it is awful for the Jewish community. And I just don't think it should be tolerated at all. I'm sick of it. I think so many people are sick of it. I don't want to see these demonstrations on our streets anymore.
I love the point you made about the Jewish people there, just to finish, because I actually find any racism abhorrent, but I think it's extraordinary that nobody ever talks about the racism, the severe racism, anti-Semitism, different phrase of course, that's gone against the Jewish people. I still will say this while I sit in this chair. Got friends whose kids can't wear their school blazers in North London. That's outrageous. If that was happening to other ethnic minorities there, I've said it, then people will be jumping up and down. It's pretty appalling. But I do love, actually, most of all about tonight, I do love what you said, that we become so immersed in this that you could come here every day. I'm exactly like you. I get out of here and I go, oh God, I've been angry again about it. But it's when you get this stuff every day, you know, you've got a sentencing council saying, oh, you can get away with that because you're transgender, or you've got B&Q saying you can't say blimey. It's hardly surprising you get immersed in it, isn't it?
Oh, you've got 6 police officers turning up at the house of some decent, you know, law-abiding people who just happen to be a bit robust on a WhatsApp group about their child's school. I mean, this stuff is completely and utterly bonkers, and we're right to be angry about it. If we're not angry about it, then everything's lost, really. We've got to keep up the energy and keep up that sense of this isn't right. We have to change it. Together we have to change it.
What are you doing tomorrow night at 9 o'clock? Are you going to watch me on ITV or not?
Now you've told me, I think that'll have to be a hot date.
Lovely. There you see, Tyson, you can have flicky hair or you can be on ITV. Nice to see you. Thank you, Isabel Oakeshott, 6:23. We're live across the UK. This is JK on Drive. Just to repeat, actually, I won't be here tomorrow. Peter Cardwell, who's going to be on the show between now and 7, is doing Drive Time. You probably won't want to watch ITV at 9 o'clock tomorrow night, but it's called Life Stories and it's mine. Back in 3.
Well, it kind of is right for them to give a running commentary because they are the oversight ministers of the police. No one's saying they should pick up the phone and directly sort of get involved in operational decisions. But when an operational decision has been made that's clearly daft, the police are already looking a bit sheepish themselves about it. There's no reason why the ministers responsible for the police shouldn't say, guys, what is going on?
Yeah, exactly.
They're the ones that set these laws. So if the laws are being badly implemented, it's for politicians to step in and go, calm down.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back 6:26, we're live across the UK. There's only one man that we need to take us to the finishing line, a man with clarity with anyway, Peter Cardwell, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, why are you not in the studio with me? What's happened to my voice there? What are you wearing?
I don't know, but I'm at home because it's a day off, but I've decided to grace you with my presence because of this excellent news that the Sentencing Council has capitulated.
That's not
to
the
government.
interesting news, Cardwell. The interesting and brilliant news is that you are doing Tuesday on Talk Drive this week. So impressed have the bosses been that you're doing tomorrow. Have you told the nation that?
Well, you just have, but no, I knew you were off, and the bosses said very simply, Peter, see you next Tuesday.
Brilliant. Right, very good, Cardwell, very good. When you finish the show tomorrow, what will you be doing?
I'll be going home, I'll be switching on my television and sitting down with a nice cup of tea and a piece of cake, and I'll be switching on the television at 9 o'clock tomorrow night to watch Kevin O'Sullivan on Talk. Brilliant.
Okay, so, Ryan. Right, listen, Peter. No, sorry, what's your name? Lovely Peter. I'm only joking. Sentencing Council, mate. You've always been really straight with me about, like, political ideology. How can anybody of any political persuasion expect the general public to accept that you can be treated differently for the same crime depending on the colour of your skin, your religious persuasion, your sexuality? This is what we faced. And just, 2 hours ago, the Sentencing Council have gone, we're going to suspend that. It's almost as if the media, us, other people, in their entirety, have made these idiots see sense. Why don't they see it beforehand?
They developed this policy for 2 years, Jeremy. Then the government said, well, Robert Jenrick, actually, the Shadow Justice Secretary, brought it to the attention of Shabna Mahmood, who is the Justice Secretary for Labour, and said, this isn't right. She was blindsided by it, she didn't know about it. Then she put pressure on the Sentencing Council. In fact, the government is going to introduce legislation. My understanding, I spoke to a senior source at the Ministry of Justice. I used to work there as a special advisor.
Did you?
I did.
Oh, right, okay.
That person told me that it's likely that the legislation will still go ahead to ban this, but nonetheless, the Sentencing Council, they've seen sense because they've been put under a lot of pressure. They're an independent body. They've been put under a lot of pressure by the government. They've been put under a lot of pressure by Robert Jenrick as well. He was threatening legal action on this because the fundamental principle is that everyone should be equal before the law. If you see,
so what I'm asking you, as somebody who worked in the Justice Department, explain to me, Bud, on a serious note for a change, what politician, whatever their persuasion, what politician thinks that that's going to be popular? Or do they not care about the backlash as they just try and implement their woke nonsense?
Well, it wasn't politicians who brought this forward. It was an independent body of senior judges, senior people within the legal profession. And the point is that they are independent and could basically do what they wanted. And they said that this should go forward. And it's an absurd principle that something you can't control, your ethnicity, your sexuality, for example, that should have some bearing on how you are sentenced if you've committed a crime. So you could have two people, totally everything else being equal, who are murderers, rapists, armed robbers. One of them is from an ethnic minority, one of them is a white man. And you say to the white man, we're going to give you a stronger sentence, a longer sentence than the person from the ethnic minority because they're from an ethnic minority. That's crazy. That is something that is bonkers. It's something that the public won't accept. The government saw that. It's not often I say this, Jeremy, but Shabna Mahmood, Keir Starmer have done a good job today. They've put pressure on the Independent Sentencing Council. The Sentencing Council have done what they should have done many, many months ago. They shouldn't have come anywhere near the guidance that they're issuing to magistrates and judges.
And Pete, to be fair, from what you've said, this has been in the making for a couple of years, and we're not defending Starmer, but, you know, let's be honest at this particular moment. If this has been in the making for a couple of years, this ridiculous quango, is that the right word? I don't even know, group, committee, whatever. Who set these people up? It must have been the Tories.
Well, they were set up in 2009 by Gordon Brown. They've been around. They've been given lots of guidance to a lot of people. But the Ministry of Justice probably took its eye off the ball. They had people in those meetings. They should have flagged it to the Justice Secretary. When I was a special advisor, I would say to officials, I would say to press people, if there's something that's going to be controversial that my boss, the Justice Secretary, is likely to disagree with, jump up and down and tell me what that is. The Ministry of Justice people didn't do that. Shabna Mahmood was blindsided by it. But in fairness, As soon as she knew about it, she spoke to the Sentencing Council. She said, I don't want to do this. They came back to her in a 5-page letter and said, actually, we're doing it anyway. Now there's going to be legislation, and they've backed down. So I think the government has done the right thing here, but it's a total shambles. It has been from the start, but it should never have been in development. And it was in development under the Conservatives as well.
No, not sticking up for the Tories, you know me, totally straight like that. But it's interesting, you say we should credit them, OK? In other days, you could argue that she should have been over this. Now, let's talk about the other big news story of the day, which is illegal migration. And I make this point because, you know, he's come out today and said illegal migration makes me very angry, and Mrs. Balls has blamed the weather. But there are 30,000 plus migrants who have come to this country since Labour took power, which is far more than the Tories. And this is not in any way a compliment to the shambles that was the Tory party at the end. But it's almost as if the things that he says to get maximum, he'll change, won't he? I mean, let's welcome everybody. Suddenly I hate migration. Suddenly this sentencing council. I just wonder whether he's become the Prime Minister already, who just changes the rhetoric depending on who he's trying to please on a particular day. Because what that tells people is, Pete, that there isn't much substance.
I don't think Keir Starmer is that political. I don't think he believes many things politically. I think he did probably when he was younger, but now he'll do what works. And I think his ruthlessness is something which is his strongest characteristic, which you need actually to be.
Do you think he is ruthless? Do you think he is ruthless?
Yeah, I do. I think he's ruthless, and I think he sees on this item anyway. On this thing to do with migration, he sees which way the wind is blowing. He wants to at least look as if he's fixing it. I think it's probably unfixable in 5 years. I think it's a system that a lot of people, a lot of our viewers and listeners obviously think that there are ways to fix it that are easy. In terms of the legality of that, I'm not so sure.
But it surely would be easy, and you'd know far more than me, so I'll accept if this is wrong. The one thing that would not be enshrined in European law or the ECHR is to make the benefits and the welfare given to people coming to this country infinitely better than the people who've lived here all their lives. Nobody's going to tell a government that they can't make it harder for people, are they?
Well, it's absurd. It's absurd, Jeremy, and we learned over the weekend from Yvette Cooper, from the Home Secretary, that you can basically tick a box and say, I am destitute, I've lost my job as a migrant, I've come here illegally, I thought I had enough money, I don't. House me. You know, give me a home. There are loads of people who are temporarily homeless in this. They don't have a place to call their own. They're in temporary accommodation, things like bed and breakfast and so on, who are further down the list than migrants. That is a fact. And we're in a situation where migrants are treated far better in so many different scenarios than people who have contributed to this country or were born in this country. That's not fair. I hope the government gets some sort of a grip of this. Maybe they will, but I think it's unlikely. And I think, you know, politics is the art of the possible. And Keir Starmer knows as soon as he tries to do the difficult things that there's going to be pushback. He keeps talking about smashing the gangs. I don't think that's the way to do it. At the moment, there is no deterrent to come across. Rwanda wasn't a good scheme, very expensive.
But isn't the deterrent to make it harder to come? Not just to make it harder to come here, but make it a less attractive option. I will forever remember.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
I mean, I remember a week after Trump was elected, whether people like this or not, they had CNN, I guess it was, at the border of Mexico, and this woman with her kids was crying, and they said, why are you crying? There's no point in going now, because I won't get in. Precisely, because that's what he said he was going to do. Why don't we do the same here? That's what I'm saying.
Well, I've had absurd arguments with people on this station who have said, oh, well, migrants, maybe some of their family are in Britain, therefore they want to come to Britain. That's fine. That's okay to want to. That doesn't mean we should accept people. I have family in Australia. Doesn't mean the Australians have to say, oh, yes, come on, Peter. Oh, you don't have enough money? Oh, we don't mind. We'll just bring you in because we're compassionate. It is an absurd system. It doesn't work. The European Convention on Human Rights is not serving us in the way that it did. People talk about, oh, it's a historic thing, it's really important. And yes, it is. And some of the fundamental rights that are there would be adopted anyway. But in terms of the absurdities that are there, the fact that people who have contributed nothing to this country, who come here illegally, are treated better than people in this country, that is just not fair. It's not a matter of racism, it's not a matter of anything, it's a matter of fairness. And people who have contributed to the country need to be put first, and they're not being put first. And Keir Starmer, I don't know if he's going to fix that or not. I hope he does. It will take a very, very brave person to make a lot of unpopular decisions. I'm not sure he's that person. He says he's trying to fix it. You know, we'll see. And we'll see what the Conservatives and indeed Reform UK come up with in the next election, which I think is going to be fascinating in 2029.
So wise. And I loved your description. Politics is the art of the possible. Explain that to an idiot like me. What does that mean?
Well, even if you've got 411 MPs, as Keir Starmer does, give or take a few, well, can you get something through? Can you make sure that you're not going to have a massive rebellion? All these calculations have to be made. At the moment, the welfare changes, for example, that Rachel Reeves has announced in recent weeks, well, he knows that he might have 80 people who rebel against him and don't vote for them, but he'll still have enough people. So that's working out what's possible, what's acceptable to the public, what's acceptable to his own party. It's about getting stuff through, guiding things through. The Prime Minister isn't a dictator. He can't do exactly what he wants to do. He needs to bring people with him. That's always the case in politics, and it has to be possible. Otherwise, it's impossible.
Do you know, if I was the President or the Prime Minister, I'd have you like that blonde woman that he has in America. What's her name? Catherine Levitt. Who needs to...
Leave it, yeah.
Leave it alone. Do you go to B&Q? Do you like a bit of DIY, Peter Carwell?
I saw Richard Tice there, actually, just the other week. He was buying a few paint samples. No, I've been to B&Q. I'm more a Leyland man, I must say myself.
Oh, what?
But, Leyland. You know, they do paints and rollers and paint brushes and all that. I was in Leyland recently getting a few bits of paint.
Do you do stuff like that? Because I've never painted anything.
You've never painted anything?
Mate.
I mean, if even I can do it, I'm the least practical person you could ever meet.
No, you're not. You're far more practical than me. I've never painted anything. I've never cooked one meal.
You've never cooked a meal? You've never cooked a meal?
All right, well, I'll tell you the only time I cooked a meal, and this is causing... Don't laugh, Ryan, because it's not... It was a few years ago, and the War Office was out, and there was a pizza, and it was one... Well, it's not funny. And I took the
in fact, you refer to your wife as the War Office.
Yes, that's what Granda did. I've incorporated it. I took the plastic off and I read all the instructions, and I think anyway, she told me how to put the animal in anyway, and I brought it out and I sat in front of the football and had a beer, and I got halfway through this pizza and I thought that's quite chewy, and I'd actually, without knowing it, because I honestly wouldn't know, I'd actually cooked the polystyrene bottom onto the pizza and eaten half it. I couldn't poo for a week. Honestly, I'm not joking. It was a nightmare.
Did you put yourself in the recycling afterwards?
Absolutely. The only other thing I want to say to you is, apart from how much we love you, and thank you for your day off, Sonia, tomorrow, drive time, What can we expect apart from your brilliant humour?
Between 4 and 7, I don't know just yet. I would imagine we'll talk about the Sentencing Council. There's a lot coming from the government tomorrow as well. We've heard some stuff.
Ryan says, good answer, but he'll talk to you in the morning.
He'll talk to me in the morning. Yeah, Ryan tells me what to do, and then we do it. That's what happens, Jeremy.
What do you expect him to know at this point, you ludicrous imbecile, is what he said.
Early doors.
Listen, mate, are you out in the lash tonight?
Oh, yes, definitely. You know me.
Well, I do know. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, sorry, I've said the wrong thing. It's all gone hopelessly wrong. Peter Carwell, thank you, mate, honestly, on your day off, for taking time to come on the show. Really appreciate it. And Pete will be with you tomorrow afternoon between 4 and 7 with Drive Time here on Talk, 21 minutes before 7 o'clock tonight. For Monday, if you want to be on, 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Loads to cram into the next 20 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We're back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
That Mike, that's how we line up. And David Bull in for Ian Collins all this week, sounding fantastic. And you're rather slim this afternoon when I saw it. 0344 499 1000 is my telephone number if you'd like to be on ahead of 7 o'clock. Delighted to take your call or see your text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Helen says, of course the Sentencing Council will delay two-tier guidelines. They're on salaries that they don't want to lose if they're disbanded. Love it. Michael Tomlinson. Jez, evening. The Sentencing Council have backtracked in fear of being closed down and losing their paycheck. Yes, we're all the same. Bob Seeley. The thing they lost was trust, the Tories. They will not get that back in opposition, so it's reforms to lose. Interesting. Stephen's in Lincolnshire. Let's do. Jez, I've heard hundreds of Talk listeners suggest turning round the Channel migrants. I have not heard why we can't. If there's a reason, let's hear it, and we'll take it from there. It's interesting. Many people have said, why don't we just turn the boats round? People have talked about how dangerous it is for boats to be in the Channel. Well, is it dangerous to turn it around? Oh, yes. No, it's an excuse. Jez, Isabel Oakeshott is completely right. I voted when I turned 18. I'm almost 60 and voted for the second time last year for reform. I've only in the last couple of years really paid attention to politics because I found talkTV, and boy, do I wish I hadn't. I should have carried on in my own little bubble. Well, how do you think that makes us feel? Colin Tupman, what a great name. Jez, he's in County Durham. When Starmer talks about illegal immigration, is it illegal a word you can use now? I mean, Labour spent many, many hours splitting hairs over the terminology Suella Braverman used and puked on her for it. Puked? That's a great word. Puked on her for it. So it's illegal now and not irregular anymore. Wayne, if this country is broke, why don't we just stop paying the bleeding hotel bills for illegal migrants? Yep. Francis is in Sussex. If you read that wrong without the S, you'd say Francis from Sussex, which it isn't. The Sentencing Council have only suspended it. They will wait until it all dies down and they'll slip it through the back door. That's probably true. Stork says, your cooking sounds like something Frank Spencer could do. I'm not very good at cooking. In fact, I'm not very good at anything practical. That's what the War Office does. 0344 499 1000. Vic likes being called the War Office. Seriously, the War Office. 0344 499 1000, 6:45. There's only one person, really, to finish the show with. We've talked about illegal... Well, I'm going to do an impression. Henry Bolton, hello.
Hello, Jeremy.
Stand by. I'd like to say to everybody listening that illegal migration to the UK makes me very, very angry. And although 30,000 people have come into the UK whilst I've been Prime Minister... this is because the weather's been nice, as Mrs. Balls has told you. I'm going to smash the gangs. Goodbye. What a load of old tripe, Henry. It's just a soundbite, isn't it? Oh, it makes him angry. Well, do something about it, right?
Indeed. Look, I put a post out earlier today. You know, it's great talking about it. It's great spending money on it. But isn't it time that we had a government that was decisive? And I'll tell you what, hats off to Robert Jenrick for actually taking the initiative, taking the sentencing guidelines forward, and actually he's the man above all else that got this U-turn from the Sentencing Council. So good on him. But why couldn't the government do that? Why does it take a shadow minister to do that? You know, the problem is that they are trying to cater to two different audiences here. As you quite rightly pointed out just now, he's got, and Peter as well, the art of the politically possible. In the Labour Party, he's got a party that is part of it, absolutely signs up to open borders. Another part of it is far more pragmatic and starts to get the idea, and I think he probably does as well. But he's got to present as though he's meeting that public demand to do something about it, whilst keeping his party together. And that's a fine line. But the bottom line of that is, the outcome of that is that he's not going to be effective. Add to that, that one of the problems here is, and one of the reasons they keep talking about this and throwing money at it, is because they don't know how to solve it. I've said it before, but I was pleased to hear the Prime Minister say that he was shocked to see the lack of coordination between the different agencies working on our board.
Just hold on one second there. Just hold on one second there. But this is my point, H. He was shocked to discover the lack of coordination. Are these people, our politicians of all sides, are they deaf? I'm not allowed to say dumb, that'll upset somebody, but I mean, is there no common sense? Because anybody who is in the slightest bit invested in what's going on, and one would hope politicians of all sides would know that this is a catastrophic disaster that nobody seems to be able to find a solution to. And actually, when I speak to you, more than anybody actually, it makes perfect sense. I mean, we all know about Rwanda. We all know that apparently we have to process them offshore. But why we can't train individuals to say to people, I mean, I understand about the legalities and all that. Make it harder to come and make it less attractive to be here. And stand up against the world to protect your own people like Trump's doing. What is wrong with that?
It's not rocket science.
No.
But the problem here, in that sense, in that regard, is that he goes to agencies that themselves are flawed when it comes to this. The National Crime Agency is, they're good at what they do, but what they do is policing in the UK. They have virtually no Scooby as to how things are worked across the Southern Balkans, parts of the Middle East, the Near East, and so on. They don't know. And they don't know the diplomatic side of the things, and they don't know the intelligence side of things as they should do. So what I've been banging on to the point that I'm even boring myself, that we've got to bring all this together under one roof. You've got to have one framework, one government framework, not the Home Secretary and the Justice Secretary and the Foreign Secretary and all these different people with subordinate people working underneath them, tasked with doing X, Y, and Z, who are always going to be sort of, well, I work for my government department, so I've got to answer to my junior minister or my whoever, and it never comes together. I've done this. I've put it together for other countries that had the wisdom to understand that they didn't know how to solve this. They needed somebody to come in from outside to help them. And the government, this government, the previous government, the governments for the last, God knows, 25 years, have thought they've known best, but have actually gone to people who ultimately failed to deal with this in the first place, either through poor decision-making at the political level or at the operational level, because they don't know. And that's not their fault. But where do you go? I mean, if you talk about transnational organised crime, where are you going to go? To be fair, you're going to go to the police, aren't you? But the police don't know, because the police don't operate in Albania or Northern Macedonia or wherever it might be. They don't know. So you've got to create the means to do that, and you've got to pull them all together so that the police are working with the Foreign Office are working with the Ministry of Justice, etc., etc. It's not rocket science. We can put that together in 8 months. I say it and I say it and I say it again, and if Keir Starmer watched your show, he'd know that that's the way to do it, because I'd have told him and he'd gone, oh yeah.
Talking of which, do you remember when you applied for the job or requested an interview or whatever, who did they give the job to as their border czar?
A police officer.
And have we heard Jack from him in 9 months? Because I haven't heard anything from that man.
No, we haven't, because he's sat there with his budget and his 100 people who are all spread across the other different agencies with no policy framework, no strategy, without the power to coordinate them, without having access to any minister who can actually start whipping people into line. It is no good finding. Look, I'll give you a little analogy, because this is what happens here. I worked in a country where, when I went in, they had already appointed somebody to coordinate the national strategy for borders, and I was supposed to be helping that person. He didn't have a clue. He was a police officer, didn't have a clue. Anyway, so I accepted that setup where a police officer was the boss. I went to see the head of customs, and because he wasn't really cooperating, and I said, what's the problem here? He said, look, I'm in the Ministry of Finance. I work to the junior minister, who works to the minister, who sits in the cabinet. He is a police general who answers to a deputy minister, who answers to the minister, who sits in the cabinet. He said, I will take instructions from my minister, but not from a subordinate within the Ministry of Interior.
So what you're talking about, and we have it here, and I don't want to rush you, but we have to move in a sec, is that there's no coordination. Everybody has their own agenda. Everybody's got their own ideas.
And they're all protecting their jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
listen.
and
If I've said this once, I'll say it a million times. You should be sorting this out. Just very, very, very quickly. Robert Jenrick complimented massively over this. I wonder if the Tories are wishing they'd make him the leader rather than Cammy Badenoch. It's interesting, isn't it? 10 seconds response to that.
I think politically, it's a no-brainer. Politically, if Robert Jenrick was leading the Conservative Party, I think reform would be on the back foot. But we shouldn't underestimate the challenge that Robert would have if he was leader, because he's got the same problem as Reform have got, as Labour have got, as everybody's pretty much got, and that is that his party is split between two different ideologies. Half the Conservative Party should be in the Liberal Democrats.
I would talk to you all evening, Henry Bolton. We love you. We love the big flag and the check shirt and the tie from the club. You look in the business. Henry Bolton on Talk Drive. Thank you, my friend.
Scheme like Rwanda, David, in order to deal with...
Come on, Mike, it never even saw the light of day, did it? So we don't even know whether it would have worked, and they scrapped it because it was ideological.
We know that every assessment, every costing, every independent expert says the Rwanda scheme would not have acted as
Experts are often wrong, Mike.
I don't think so in this case, and I think this is really Labour lining itself up for what to be judged by in 2028, 2029, David. It's already said it wants to get NHS waiting lists down, it now wants to tackle illegal migration as well.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Last 5 minutes to drive for Monday. Peter Carball in for me tomorrow. Kevin O'Sullivan at 7 o'clock, of course. Very quickly, final call of the night. Saeed's in Leicester. Saeed, you're on Talk Drive. A very good evening. This is an astonishing call.
Good to talk to you.
Listen to this, people. Pin back your luggles. Go.
Right. My son's born and bred in this country, worked here all his life, works for a British company in Indonesia, wanted to bring his wife over for a holiday for my wife's 60th birthday, has been refused a visa, a tourist visa, despite us giving a guarantee of financial guarantee that she would go back. She didn't want to settle here. They've got a fully paid up house in Indonesia as well. So my point is, you can come here with no papers and get everything, and you can work here, pay tax, everything, and you'll refuse entry. That's my point.
It's ridiculous. What you're saying is that your son was born in England, he went to work in Indonesia, he met an Indonesian woman, he married her, they wanted to come and visit you and your wife. You are British citizens, you've worked here all your lives, you've paid tax, and he wasn't allowed to come here, despite guarantees of the house that they owned in Indonesia and your guarantees that they would go back. They were refused entry. The next thing you're going to say... So they could have gone down the illegal route, right? And they'd have got to have stayed.
Yep, exactly.
But don't tell me somebody suggested they went down the illegal route.
No, they didn't. But, the point you're making is you can come without papers, and yet if you follow the legal route, you're not allowed to come here.
Unbelievable. Mate, the world, you cannot tell me, unless I am completely and utterly barking mad, that there is any justice whatsoever in that. It's wrong. Saeed, we really appreciate your call. Saeed in Leicester there, wrapping our calls today. Can I say a massive thank you to Jodie, to Ryan, to Amy, to Mozzie and to Jana, as Kev O'Sullivan, TV critic extraordinaire, walks into Studio 1 and I said ITV, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Talk, hello.
I never thank my team at the end of the show.
No, because
do you know why?
Why?
I don't know their names.
Samara.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of her.
Yes,
yeah, she's
that's
the producer,
a nice new shirt.
Thank you very much.
You're looking very smart. Green and white.
Yes, well, there
like
you
a
go.
pacer. Do you remember those sweets?
Yes, I do.
I do.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the Fulham game?
I hated every minute, thanks very much.
I was really... I'm genuinely...
so disappointed.
Mate, I was genuinely surprised they got battered by Crystal Palace. I thought they would go through. What happened? They didn't turn up,
We
did they?
just didn't turn up. Everything was perfect. Beautiful day, sun shimmering off the River Thames.
Yeah.
So excited, and we just didn't... We were hopeless.
Were you miserable on Saturday night?
Yeah, I was miserable.
Did you get drunk?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I got slowly and miserably drunk for the rest of the day.
Not even quickly drunk. What you got, Kieran?
Well, I just think that, Keir Starmer's been gaslighting the nation, saying, smash the gangs, smash the people smuggling gangs. As everybody knows, that won't make a blind bit of difference, because if you smash the gangs today, there'll be new ones tomorrow. If you don't stop the migrants, you will never smash the gangs. There will always be gangs. It's supply and demand. Now, so he's been gaslighting the country since July about this.
Yep.
How many gangs has he smashed? None whatsoever. Anywhere near smashing any gangs? No.
It's the weather.
Yeah.
It's the weather.
Yeah, and that's the best that Yvette Cooper did. What's he done today? He's now gaslighting the entire world. It's ridiculous.
Somebody said to me earlier, so he spent months allowing his trendy left-wing human rights lawyers' mates to get money. Yeah. Now all his prosecuting mates are going to be able to make money. I completely agree. He changes like the wind.
Yeah, you can't... This is nonsense.
It is.
Smashing the gangs won't work. Completely. It's a strategy that is entirely flawed, as has been proved by the fact they haven't caught any gangs in 9 bloody months.
Do you know what Mike said this morning? You know, he's got this conference today with 40 governments and officials from all these countries.
Point, yeah.
They could all bring their families and stay here. It would make no difference. Absolute bloody joke. No, you're right, mate. It's a joke.
It's an absolute joke. Also, I see that the Sentencing Council, for fear of being